Hey, my incredible time-traveling buddies. It's your pal, Chronos, back with another mind-blowing episode of What If? On our awesome channel. Today, we're diving headfirst into part 9 of our epic series. What if Deku became Saitama? Believe me when I say, you're in for a wild ride. So grab your favorite snack, get comfy, and let's explore this mind-bending universe together. Chapter 24: Hero's Heart. In a mad science laboratory, an evil genius studies a triple-layer burger while the computer next to him analyzes its makeup. The scientist rubs his hands together as he cackles maniacally. Ha 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 ha! I've done it! My ingenious plan to get a hold of Makudaro's new secret formula is almost complete. In just a few short minutes, my supercomputer will be done analyzing the new triple Maku. Once I have the formula, I'll add my own ingredient to the concoction, turning all who eat it into my loyal minions after just one bite. He dramatically exclaimed as he turned to the computer, seeing that the analysis was 98% complete. His lips formed a villainous grin. All of Japan will be mine by the end of the week, he loudly boasted. A strong breeze filled the lab, almost knocking the scientist over, followed by a loud alert going off. He suddenly turned to the computer, which read, "Unable to scan, analysis failed." What just happened? He exclaimed in shock as he turned to the display holding the burger. A look of shock edged on his face when he saw that it was gone. "Where's the triple Maku?" he cried out with his voice echoing across the lab. "Gotta admit it was a good plan." A strong voice came out of nowhere. The scientist turned to the voice and saw one holding the triple Maku. "Too bad there was just one flaw in it." "Curse you one! You foiled my plans!" he exclaimed dramatically. One smiled confidently, holding the burger in his left hand. "Your plans were foiled when you decided to ruin good food," he declared as he cocked back a fist. "Air bullet, shotgun!" He fired a barrage of shockwaves with one-arm punches. The mad doctor crashed into the wall behind him. He fell out of the wall, leaving numerous imprints around the outline of his body. One smiled confidently before taking a bite of the burger and turning his head to a camera. "And cut!" the director called out, effectively ending the scene. The film crew then began to move around to do their respective jobs. One swallowed the food in his mouth as the director approached him. "Good job, one." The hero nodded his head. "Thank you so much. So, are we done filming?" "Yeah, that should be all we need," he said with a smile. He then crossed his arms. "Has anyone ever told you you're a natural at this? I admit when I was told I'd be directing you, I suspected this to take longer, but was surprisingly quick. Well, if I'm being perfectly honest, this was my first time doing any sort of professional acting. I was actually pretty curious to what the story arc the commercial would have. Surprisingly, the company hasn't done too many hero-themed campaigns. But they made a special case for you, I guess, and you knocked this out of the park. Thank you again. So, is it okay if I take off now? A hero's always on the move after all." "Yeah, you're fine. All we have to do is edit now. This should be on TV and online in about 2 weeks." "Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity." "No, thank you. This was a lot of fun one, and thanks for the autograph," he said with sincerity. "You bet. Can I keep the sandwich?" he asked, raising the burger. "Sure. See you around, my guy," he said before leaping away. One ate the burger as he flew across the sky with Skywalk. Once he was finished, he got an alert on the app of a situation in Chiba, so he headed over. Though he wasn't too familiar with the city, once he got there he could tell something was off. As he watched high from the sky, he could see a ruckus in the southeast part of the city. A giant black bear was tearing through the city with bestial ferocity. It was crushing cars under its paws while frantic people ran for their lives to escape as its massive body cracked the pavement beneath it. Local heroes were doing their best to contain, or at least stop it from continuing its rampage. One swipe of its massive paws could bring death to the several heroes who got in its way. In a flash of speed, one was on the ground in the path of the raging beast. He outstretched his right hand and released a focused wave of his power aura onto the bear. The aggressive look in its eye instantly became one of fear. All its animal instincts were promising death if it continued its course while its fur stood on end. One wasn't surprised that the bear had begun to slow down. The look of fear in its eyes was prevalent as it stopped running completely and began a calm, submissive walk. It never took its eyes off of him, possibly afraid of what the hero would do if it did. Looking at the bear, he wasn't surprised to see a black bear in this part of the country. However, he was surprised that the bear, which was at least 10x the normal size, began to shrink. It reached the normal size for its species as it drug its feet towards the hero before finally stopping in front of his hand. After seeing the bear was in a fully calm, submissive state, one stopped his technique and placed a gentle hand on the bear's head. "Good bear. Now sit down," he said calmly, with the bear doing what it was told. Once it seemed the chaos had finally stopped, which was a shock to the people in the area. Civilians along with pros and police descended on the scene. Now that he had a moment to look around, the damage wasn't as bad as he originally thought. He spread his senses and sensed no one was in immediate life-threatening danger. Several heroes and police approached him, most notably the eye-gun hero, Xless. They weren't necessarily friends, but they could at least be civil. "Hello, one," the hero said casually. "Hey there, Xless, you seem to be doing well," he responded in a friendly, casual tone. The laser man rubbed his injured shoulder. "Well, I'm not dead, so that's something. Thanks for the help. I'm assuming someone alerted you of this big bastard, and that's what brought you to our neck of the woods." "You would be correct, sir. I got an alert saying a big effing bear was going rampage the game out here. So I headed over." A female hero perked up. "How did you stop the bear? I saw you just standing there while it just stopped and did what you said." "I'm also curious." A detective from Chiba P.D. chimed in. "You may be legal now, but you're not allowed to use your quirk, one," he said sternly with crossed arms. "Relax, officer. I just used my willpower to scare him into submission," he stated casually. Everyone around who heard his explanation was bewildered by what he just said. One sighed. "It's not that complicated. It's merely a martial arts technique. When your body, mind, and spirit are strong, you can learn to manipulate your willpower into a physical energy and project it onto others. Simple to explain, very difficult to do. However, this particular technique at its basic level does one of two things: intimidates others into submission, or knocks them out. I chose the former when dealing with Kyobo here." He gestured to the bear. "Kyobo?" Xless said, surprised. "What? He needs a name, doesn't he? Plus he's a quirk animal, a very rare thing. I assume his quirk manifested and the shock of it freaked him out. You know, according to a study, quirks can manifest in animals at around the same age as people. You can tell he's a very young bear." All took a good look at the bear. "You're right. I remember reading about an Asiatic lion that can produce aura clones of itself," one of the officers added. "I read about that too," one included, turning back to the sitting bear. "So what are we going to do with him?" "Animal rights is en route. He'll most likely be taken to a research facility specifically made to house animals like this on an island in the Pacific. They can study him, and the island is big enough for him to still roam wild," the detective answered. "That's a relief," one said as he looked out to the setting sun. "I'm gonna help clean up," he said before going to the damaged area to help out. The next day, after finishing his morning workout, Izuka got a call from Momo. She and her classmates were going to swim at UA's pool today, and he was welcome to join them. They have it from 3 to 5, so he agreed to meet up with them at the gate a little before that. Eri wanted to go to Kana's house, so he decided to drop her off before going on patrol for a couple of hours. His mom would be out running errands, but she should be back by the time Eri wanted to come home. He put her green wig on and dressed her in a white t-shirt with pink sleeves, light blue jean short shorts, and gray sneakers. The two left the house and made their way to Kana's. They held hands and the two talked about various things. To his surprise, Eri didn't know what a birthday was. Since she came to live with them, the police looked for records of her birth, but they came up empty. Everyone figured she was no older than 7 or 8, but still, to think she's never celebrated her own birthday, let alone knew it, broke his heart. They arrived at Kana's apartment, and the maid Toru answered the door. They were both welcomed in to see Kana and her other friend Riko Saikawa playing together in the living room. Eri has told him a thing or two about Saikawa. To him it seems she's a little jealous Kana has another friend, but seeing her welcome Eri showed she's warming up to her. He was happy about that because he wanted her to have more friends. After a little talking with Toru, he left the apartment. He found a secluded spot and got into his beta suit, alerted he was on patrol on the app, and flew across the sky with Skywalk. At UA High. In a conference room, the faculty of UA, which included Nizu, Eraserhead, Vlad King, Present Mike, and All Might in his skinny form, sat together. Nizu was at the head of the table, and in front of everyone were 3 applications for the hero course, all ranging from within 5 years. The biggest similarity is that all 3 of the applicants were quirkless. The applicants were Sanji Ryori, Shigeo Megain, and Izuka Midoriya. The Chimera cupped his paws together. First off, I'd like to thank all of you for coming to this meeting. I know that several of you are busy, so for you to take time out of your schedules for this is appreciated. Vlad put a fist to his chin as he held one of the applications. What is this about exactly? I'll cut straight to the point. After a conversation with Eraserhead, as well as other factors, I believe one of these 3 individuals are one. These words surprised everyone in the room. What? The Blood Hero said in disbelief before turning to the papers. What makes you think one, of all people, could be quirkless? Eraserhead perked up. My student has superhuman prowess as a result of training, completely unrelated to her quirk. I met her teacher, and long story short, I learned that it's possible to gain such power just from training. Okay, but once power goes far beyond just superhuman prowess, Vlad stated. We may not have all the explanations, but given how Eraserhead's quirk has no effect on him, coupled with no detection of a quirk factor, as impossible as it seems, it's the only theory that remains. Nizu responded. Everyone took in the principal's words. Nizu turned to All Might, who had a look of discontent while looking at a specific application. Something wrong, All Might? All Might held the application, looking at with unease. I know this kid, he said, holding Izuka Midoriya's application. Midoriya, huh? At this point he's my main suspect, Eraser stated. President Mike looked at the application, instantly recognizing the face. Yo! I recognize this kid! He was at HeroCon with Yaoyorozu and he did a killer impression of you! He exclaimed happily while looking at All Might. All Might glanced at the other hero. Well, I'll have to address that later, but I'm talking about the fact that I've seen this kid around town. I see him at Dagoba Beach from time to time. He's actually the one who cleaned it over a year ago. And he was at Island during the recent crisis. He was with a friend of Melissa's. Eraser narrowed his eyes at those words as he looked at the Greenet's Hero Course application. This was sent in months in advance, and around the time one started appearing, he went to the same middle school as Bakugo. He was dating Yaoyorozu, trained with the same martial arts master as her, and he saw for himself the boy was strong. He remembered when he was a guest at UA and helped some of his students train for the sports festival. Those particular students' quirks have improved significantly more than the others since then. Now come to find out he was at Island at the same time one was. It couldn't have been a coincidence. This is him, I'm sure of it, he said confidently. Hold it a minute, Eraserhead. Think for a moment. These boys are quirkless. Even if they've trained, there's a limit to how far they can go without a quirk. That's the whole reason we don't accept quirkless applicants. The hero looked at his fellow teacher with a stern expression. Vlad, it's that way of thinking that may have created one in the first place. I remember writing a letter to him after this was transferred. I thought it prudent, but from his perspective this must have felt like blatant discrimination, Nizu said with shame. All Might's eyes went wide as memories flashed through his mind. Everyone had unilaterally decided my dream was impossible. They wouldn't even give me a chance to try and prove them wrong. My peers, teachers, heroes all told me to give it up. Over and over and over again, my dreams were constantly stomped in the dirt, and no one ever cared how much that hurt. He then remembered his fight with one. Why won't you let me help you? Because you're just like everyone else, All Might. You say you want to help, but where was that when I needed it? You say I can be a hero, but where were those words when I needed to hear them? He remembered meeting MHA as All Might at Island. Have we met, young man? Once. But it's not worth remembering. The skinny man gripped the paper, his eyes locked on the face of the green-haired boy. His eyes threatened to pop out of his head as his brain connects the image and plays another memory. It was over a year ago. He had just defeated a villain with a sludge quirk and met a boy. Good job staying calm, young man. This villain had given a bunch of pros a hard time earlier today, but you kept your head. Thank you for the praise. I've had some good mental training. Hey, All Might, can I ask you something? Sure, I believe I can spare a minute or two. What is it? Well, the thing is, can you be a hero if you're quirkless? I've always wanted to be one. I still believe I can be, and I've been working most of my life for that goal. People love to mock and berate me for trying because I'm just a normal kid. So can I be a hero like you even if I don't have a quirk? Young man, I'm going to be straight with you. The world of heroics is very dangerous, and without a quirk of your own, I don't think it would be best for you to be in it. I'm sorry. It's okay to dream, and I can tell from looking at you that you've worked hard, but realistically you can only get so far when you're facing a powerful villain with a strong quirk. You should look for another career path. I have to get this villain to the police. Take care. His thoughts shifted to the rooftop after he told one about Ofe. 1. Tell me what happened to you. Please let me help. It's too late. You had your chance. I'm just getting started, and I never give up. All Might lowered his head in shame. He had no words as his thoughts came together, and he was forced to admit that one was absolutely right about him, about everything. One is something he never could have been. He was once powerless, but with the inheritance of power he's become too dependent on it. He himself was once a quirkless kid who wanted to be a hero. He would have made it happen even if no one else believed in him. And the one person who did, opened the gates for everything he's become up till now. He knows he's lucky more than anyone else. In his career as a hero, he's sure that without Ofe he'd probably be dead by now. Without Ofe, his ambition would have amounted to just that, ambition. One was right, he is like everyone else. President Mike looked at the paper. Well, we've got 3 names here. Are we so sold on this Midoriya kid? I've done a background check on all of them. These were the only quirkless applicants to ever pursue the hero course. Though shamefully I say that loosely, as they weren't given a chance to try. Niza said in a pained tone. Ryori owns a restaurant in Tokyo. Megain is currently a second-year student at Tohoku University, while Midoriya is a first-year student at Sakai High School. Sakai, huh? The kid's gotta be pretty smart to get in there, Vlad commented. I did a little extra digging and found he's in their top class and is one of their best students. So where do we go from here? These are just suspicions, and even if they're true, once legal now. So is this necessary? President Mike asked. Niza took a moment to ponder his question. He's made his feelings very clear about UA, the pros and the system in general. Taking all that we know into account, it's perfectly understandable, and he has every right to feel the way he does, he said solemnly. However, this shows one of many cracks in Heroes society. If we are to move forward together and create change in a positive way, we must make an effort to find common ground. Change can be difficult, especially when emotions, biases, and social norms are involved. But the first step starts with healthy communication, making a genuine effort to understand people and listen to them, not just hear. I want to meet one, and talk to him face to face without his cowl, and take that first step. Some of you may know about the rough history that is my past, and I can tell you one person truly can make a difference. And it all starts from there. UA Gate. One had gotten a lot of work done over the past couple hours. He stopped a bank robbery, found a kidnapped person, stopped a carjacking, and even took the time out to play basketball with some guys in Tokyo when he had some free time. Now he was back in Mizurufu and out of costume. He met up with Momo and her friends and was waiting outside the UA gate for a guest pass. The school provided the towels, so he just brought his own black and red school swim trunks. After a little over 5 minutes, Momo came back with the pass and they headed to the pool. He playfully tried to weasel out of her what she was getting him for his birthday, but she held him off. They made it to the pool and he quickly got changed. He was the first to come out and was impressed at the size of UA's pool, a nice Olympic-sized pool. Of course, his school had a whole natatorium with more than one, and a diving pool, so they win. As he was enjoying the sun's radiance, the girls came out, all in UA school swimsuits. They all lined up and started to do stretches. He was on the other side of Momo when he sensed several presences, and a moment later several guys came outside. "Hey boys!" Ashido greeted them, surprised to see them. "Hello ladies, you're here to use the pool as well, I see," Ida said with a chop, wearing a swim cap and goggles. "Yep, since we can't travel during break, we figured this was a great way to enjoy the summer," Hagakure happily stated. "And I'm here as a guest," Izuku said as he stretched. "Hello Midoriya, I welcome you to UA's swimming pool. The boys and I are here for endurance training. When you're done with the girls, you're welcome to join us." "Thanks Ida, I may take you up on that." He continued to stretch with the girls. "Are all the boys coming today?" "Actually, I got a text from Shinso saying he, Mineta, and Kaminari were doing this, so I thought it would be great if everybody joined in." "Interesting," he said just as he sensed 2 people bolting for the door to the pool, and out came Kaminari and Mineta. They were both disappointed to see the other guys here, even more so to learn Shinso's the one who tipped off Ida. "Was I not supposed to do that?" the brainwashing teen asked rhetorically, fully knowing why the 2 wanted to come out here. "Whatever! We still get the sight of skimpy swimsuits!" Mineta exclaimed. "I'll burn the image into my heart," Kaminari added as they both turned in the direction of the girls stretching. "Hey, hi Mineta," Azuri said as she stretched. "I didn't know you'd be here," Jiro added. Kaminari lowered his head, depressed. They were wearing school swimsuits. "I can't believe there isn't a single bikini, foiled again." Mineta, on the other hand, wasn't too upset with this. "You know, school swimsuits are pretty hot. Have some standards, dude," Kainari shot back. Ida went over to them and scoped them up. "Mineta, Kaminari, I thank you for suggesting this. You're an asset to our class." He brought the 2 to the other boys, kicking and screaming. Mineta saw the girls jumping in the pool, and to his burning jealousy, Midoriya. "Wait a minute, what about Midoriya? He's a guest to our school. He said may join us later though." The perverted partners just looked at the greenette splashing with Yayorozu and Ashido with a combination of jealousy, envy, and pure rage. For the next hour and a half, the girls and Izuku had done nothing but play on one side of the pool. On the other side, the boys were swimming laps, and he could feel the piercing glare of Kaminari and Mineta the entire time. He was getting along well with the girls. They had good talks as they goofed off. All was going well when he saw the boys were taking a break. "Hey girls, I'm gonna go talk to the boys, be right back." "All right, Midori," Ashido said with glee. Izuku chuckled lightly, closed his eyes and weakly smiled. "Well, looks like I'm stuck with that nickname. Be back in a bit," he said before exiting the pool and walking over to the boys. Once the girls thought he was out of earshot, an interesting conversation started up. "All right, he's gone. Now it's just you and us," Ashido said happily in a low, sly voice, looking directly at Momo. Wait, what are you talking about?" the black-haired girl questioned, surprised. She pointed a thumb behind her at the walking away Izuku. "That godbod, plus that bulge in his trunks." Her eyes morphed into a mischievous, lustful look. "Aren't you a lucky girl?" Her smile was telling as Momo blushed while feeling the eyes of her friends falling on her. Izuku had made it to the boys, and he could hear his girlfriend's dilemma. He sighed as he long since accepted the pros and cons of well endowment. Plus Ashido had been stealing glances at him this whole time. Sorry, love, I'll make it up to you later, he thought. He sat with Ojiro, Tokoemi and Shoji. What's up, guys? Hey, Midoriya. Ojiro welcomed him as he handed him an energy drink. You done hanging out with the girl? I'm a little envious. The tailed boy smiled. Izuku took the can. Hey, it's a hot day and my awesome girlfriend invited me out. You guys have really been putting work in, going plus ultra, I see. Ojiro flexed his bicep. You know it. I was just telling these two how I've basically been living at the gym. I can definitely see the results. You're more cut than you were when we first met. Thanks. The training camp approaches, we must all remain focused, Tokoemi commented. That being said, how have you been spending your break, Midoriya? Shoji asked. I've been relaxing. Training, dabbling in my hobbies, just enjoying myself, you know. The multi-armed teen's mouth appendage spoke. Weren't you at Hiro-Kan? Izuku sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, that was me. I really wasn't expecting that to be all over the internet. It was humorous, Tokoemi coolly stated. It was a good impression, Midoriya, Ojiro agreed. Izuku chuckled and had a laugh with the boys, all the while he could sense the piercing aura of Mineta, who was giving him a look of incredulousness. Kaminari, who was sitting next to him, took a swing of his drink and addressed his friend. Yeah, keep staring at him. I'm sure he'll catch fire if you keep it up. I just don't get it. How is he so cool? He asked with desperation. Kaminari closed his eyes and crossed his arms behind his head. I don't know, some guys just have it, I guess, he said as he turned to the greenette in question, whose circle now included Shinso, Sato, Siro and Ida. You guys have a training camp coming up, right? Looking forward to it? Izuku asked the group as a whole. Ida chopped as he answered. Indeed. I've been looking forward to it, a camp dedicated to strengthening our quirks, inching closer to becoming heroes worthy of UA's reputation. It can't come fast enough, he exclaimed happily with multiple chops. Ida's right, I've been looking forward to this all semester, Ojiro added. Shinso and Tokoemi gave a similar, in agreement, while Siro and Sato had looks of discontent. Is there something wrong, you two? Izuku asked. Siro's face said it all as he struggled to let the words out. Well, we kinda failed the final. We still get to go to camp, but we have to do hellish remedial classes with Mr. Aizawa. Wow. Good luck with that. I know, right? Siro lowered his head, depressed. Izuku had sensed a presence heading for the pool. He heard the door to the outside open and didn't have to turn around to know who one of them was. Turning back to the down-elbowed teen. Well, don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as an extra chance to learn and get better. Speaking of better, I've been doing the training you recommended regularly, Midoriya. Since that first training session, I've set and broken new records multiple times now, and my quirk's endurance has increased, Ida said with a chop. That's great, Ida. Izuku smiled in response. What the hell are you doing here, you damn nerd? Came the growl of none other than Bakugo. Izuku turned to face the blonde who was aggressively making his way towards him. Isn't it obvious? I'm enjoying this beautiful pool on this hot summer day. His eyes went white as his glare deepened. Kirishima quickly cut him off. Sorry we're late. It took a while to convince Bakugo to come down. That's surprising he even showed up, Izuku said aloud. So, Deku, you wanna settle who's the best between us right now? Huh, he said with a natural glare while making small explosions in his hands. Sorry, your fragile ego and cheap pride mean very little to me, he said casually, angering the blonde and stunning most of the boys. Ida put a finger to his chin. Come to think of it, we could make this training a contest. He shot his hand in the air. Everyone, I propose a race to see who can swim 50 meters the fastest. The faces of all the boys lit up as excitement washed over the group. Ojiro asked if they could use their quirks with Bakugo locking onto Izuku with a malicious grin when the answer was yes. He then walked up to the taller teen. "I'm gonna annihilate you, Deku," he declared before turning to Todoroki. "And you too, icy hot, you bastard." The first race had Bakugo win without actually swimming. The second race was Todoroki using his eyes to slide across the water. Once again, the winner didn't actually swim in a swimming contest. The third race was Ida, Izuku, Ojiro, Shoji and Shinso. Momo was officiating with a whistle. After ready, set, go and a whistle blown, the race was on. Most of the boys dove in the water. Ida, however, was sliding along the lane lines and using his quirk to jet himself forward. Those observing were surprised Ida would do it too. Ida was confident in his victory. Izuku was in the lane next to him and decided to use Blue Walk. With a combination of front crawl and a double kick, there was a burst in the water as Izuku shot past Ida and made it to the finish. "Wow, Midoriya totally flipped the script," Ashido cheered. "I thought Ida had that one too," Yururika chimed in. "That's my bae. Momo said proudly with a smile. Izuku went over to Ida and helped him out of the pool. "You beat me, an impressive showing, Midoriya." "Thanks, you did good to Ida." After everything had settled, the three winners had gathered together. "Bakugo, Midoriya, Todoroki, as the winners of each heat you'll fight for first place, understand?" Ida said. After agreeing and some noise from Bakugo, they all lined up ready to race. Each got in the starting positions. "One blast is all it's gonna take," the blonde thought confidently. Todoroki coated his right arm in ice, ready to begin. "I'll slide right past them." Izuku got ready to dive. "Better make this quick if he's coming. I'll win this with Blue Walk." "On your marks, get set, Gyo!" All three jumped. Todoroki and Bakugo, who attempted to use their quirks, just landed in the water like dead fish. Izuku, however, jetted through the water like a torpedo before stopping at the end. Turning back to the other end, he saw Eraserhead had come out and erased the other's quirks. He got out of the water and made his way towards the group. "Looks like I win." "Like hell it does, nerd!" Bakugo roared. Izuku was unfazed when the blonde was suddenly yelling in his face. "You lost, get over it. You didn't beat me. You're not better than me, damn it. If he hadn't stopped the race, I would have crushed you, you quirkless reject." "He didn't stop the race, he just erased your quirks. So you're saying without your quirk you don't have a chance of beating me?" His words stunned the ash blonde. "You don't have to answer, we both have always known," he said casually as he walked past the dumbfounded blonde. Most watching the scene were concerned at the aggression from the ash blonde, even more surprised at how unfazed Midoriya was at such hostility. Bakugo snapped out of it as his anger came back to him. "Deku!" he roared as he lunged at the greenette from behind. Izuku quickly spun and deflected the blonde's grab. He then grabbed his wrist with his right hand and twisted it before grabbing his tricep and gently throwing him into the middle of the pool. After a moment, the blonde came out of the water, giving the other teen a death glare. Izuku ignored him as he went on his way, with his sudden actions surprising all but Momo. He was about to walk to the locker room with the other boys when he was stopped by Eraserhead. "Midoriya, do you have some time? I'm not in trouble for that, am I? He attacked me after all." "No, you're fine. I'll have to do a better job at correcting his behavior," he said, looking at the angry explosion teen walking past them. "That's a waste of time, not to mention impossible. That's just how he is, especially when it comes to me." "Why is that?" "His pride is so cheap it's crippling. But never mind that, I was actually going out to eat with Momo and some of the other girls. What's this about?" "It's just a quick talk. Meet me when you're done changing." "I'm not a student you can order around, Eraserhead," he thought as the man walked away. "I've got a bad feeling about this. But they were nice enough to give me a guest pass, so why not?" he thought before he left to get changed. Once he finished, he met up with Eraserhead waiting for him in the hallway. His body language was telling, the look in his eyes piercing, as if meeting someone online in person face to face. Whatever he wanted to talk about, it was about him. It was about one. So, Mr. Eraserhead, how can I help you? He asked innocently. He gestured to the hall behind him and asked Izuku to walk with him. The Grenet followed, and after a moment of silence the hero spoke. You applied for the hero course here, didn't you? Red flag. Yes, but that was a long time ago. I let that dream go, sir. Why did you? You're kinda opening up an old wound here, Izuku said, sounding uneasy. I apologize, I'm only curious. Izuku sighed. It's fine. I'm quirkless. It's really that simple. I spent most of my life fighting against it. But the fact is you can't be a hero without a quirk. Do you disagree? The Erasure hero paused as he took in his question. It was clear Midoriya was on to him and was testing him. Any discourse would die if he said the wrong thing. Given everything he's learned, the answer would be yes. But there was a time where he wouldn't even entertain the idea of a quirkless hero. His power only allows him to take away others' power. He knows full well that if he can't do anything, he's dead, and would have been on multiple occasions if he only relied on his combat skills. He took a breath before locking eyes with the Greenette. Yes, I do, he answered with a half-truth. Izuku looked him in the eyes, unintimidated in the slightest. That was a forced answer. That's not how you truly feel, and you just said what I wanted to hear. The older man stopped and gave him a stern look, but Izuku was unfazed. You don't have to spare my feelings. I gave up being a hero because that's a sentiment that not only UA, but the Hero Academia as a whole also agrees with. That may sound like a broad statement, but when 4 different schools won't let you take their entrance exam for the same reason, you learn to suck it up and move on, he said, fully masking the hurt. They continued walking with their talk pretty much dying. Izuku had a feeling where the hero was taking him, and he wasn't in the mood. Eraserhead, where exactly are we going, sir? You said this was just going to be a quick talk. I'm not the only one who wants to speak with you. It's very important. Izuku chuckled lightly. I'm not a student, or an aspiring hero. What could anyone in this school actually have to talk to me about? They stopped in front of a door. Eraser turned to the teen with a knowing look. You'll see, he said before opening the door. These words slightly irked Izuku. He'd already figured what this was about. Seems they figured it out, not like it matters anymore. Even before the door was open, Izuku could sense 2 other people in the room. He entered alongside Eraserhead and saw Niza sitting at a table along with Yagi, to his surprise. Yagi? What are you doing here? He asked innocently. The skeletal man looked uneasy as he looked at him. He cuffed his hands together before turning to him. Hello, young Midoriya. How are you? Answering my question with a question, figures. Well, I just enjoyed a good swim. Lovely facilities, by the way, but I'm confused as to why I was brought up here. I mean, I appreciate the guest pass, but it's concerning when a non-student is called to the principal's office. Sorry if this all seems a bit cryptic, but when we heard you were on campus, we thought it prudent to let you have your fun before getting to this, Niza said calmly. And what exactly is this? Izuku asked, already knowing the answer. Eraserhead huffed in annoyance. Drop the act already. There's only one reason for us to bring you here, and you know what it is. His face had a stern look. So spare us the ignorance. Izuku kept a neutral expression as he took in his words. And again I repeat, what exactly is this? Niza looked at the green-haired teen, cuffing his paws together. Midoriya, I'll cut right to the chase. You applied to our hero course at the relative start of your 3rd year in middle school, correct? Yes, as I recall I sent it in pretty early. And I also recall getting a letter barring me from the entrance exam because I'm quirkless. The tone in his voice made the 3 tense up. Principal Nizu, is there a point to all this? Eraserhead asked me the same thing, and just so you know, I went through a lot to get over that. You're bringing up an old wound right now. I apologize, but I have a reason for bringing this up. Since this application was sent in, and ignorantly rejected, a shift began in the hero community, eventually affecting all of society. And it all began with one person, you. He worded it like that on purpose. Okay, I'll play along. Izuku raised an eyebrow with an amused smile. You think I'm one? You didn't deny it, Eraserhead said. I may have had some serious martial arts training, and I'm strong, but I'm pretty sure I can't destroy a meteor. That's the conundrum regarding one's power, isn't it? I've been doing my own personal investigation of one for months now, and I've learned quite a lot. One's first sighting was at an apartment fire over a year ago. That happened roughly 2 weeks after I wrote to you. One predominantly works in Mizudafu. You were born and raised here. Even before the app launched, the times in which one would be spotted coincided with that of a school student. This was confirmed when the app launched and the times you'd go on patrol lined up. There's also the fact that you're a student at Sakai High School in Fuji City, the same place the blue villain first struck. That was your first day of school, wasn't it? And since then once built up a good presence in that city, at times coinciding with the start and release of that school. Izuku suddenly felt Eraserhead's eyes on him. He turned around to look at see the hero's glowing red eyes and spiked up hair. There's more evidence too. My quirk lets me not only shield the quirk genes of others but also defect someone's quirk factor. Not once have I felt one from one, just like I don't feel one from you now. Izuku said nothing and kept his composure as the hero stopped his quirk. That day you came to help our students train for the sports festival. I saw a glimpse of how strong you are. And the fact you came up with ways for them to fundamentally strengthen their quirks tells us you study them as well as heroes. Just as we suspect one does. It's also no big secret how strong your girlfriend is. She stated you're stronger than her. Back at the USJ I got the impression she and one knew each other. I went to the Rising Sky dojo here in town and Keizo Tabihara confirmed that just training can lead to superhuman prowess. Izuku stayed silent as Small Mike perked up. And also it's what you said. We were all looking at your words as someone with a villainous quirk. But now it's so obvious that everything you said was from the perspective of a quirkless person. You were on island the same time one was. You're also internet famous being at HeroCon the same time one was spotted across the city, and nowhere else for those 3 days. You're also of the same height, same build and have the same looking smartwatch on your right wrist. Niza stated, pointing at the watch in question. Izuku looked at his smartwatch and checked the time. He smiled nonchalantly. Alright, what if it's true? Let's say in this hypothesis based entirely on coincidence that I am one. What exactly does this change? Is that an admittance? Niza asked. No. I'm saying that even if this is impossibly true and you. No. I'm going to leave here and have the same life I had before I came in here. I'm gonna continue to live the way I want to live and do the things I want to do and keep striving to be what I want to be. All Might took in his words. The boy's walls were completely up. As always, he wouldn't let them in. We just wanted to talk, young Midoriya. Small Might said, sensing the shift in the room. What is there to talk about? He turned to the blond man whose eyes widened with a serious look that gave him chills. You people are sounding like you care. But where was that care when I was barred from trying for the hero course under the guise of it being for my own good? I gave my blood, my sweat, my tears, and endured hellish training to be a hero. Just to be treated like a failure by the very institution I wanted to attend for no other reason than that I'm quirkless. His words hit a nerve in all of them. So I took it like a man, and I moved on. Niza took a breath. I understand that there's nothing we can say, Midoriya. On behalf of UA, all I can do is apologize. Izuku sighed. Nizu, I'm not looking for an apology. I don't want one. It's physically impossible for it to be genuine anyway. And you can do far more than just apologize. Try changing. His words hit them hard. You rejected me. You unilaterally decided I was such a failure I wasn't even worth giving a chance to. I never asked for a handout or a free pass. All I ever wanted was a chance, like everyone else. One would think you would understand that, Nizu. He narrowed his eyes at the implications of the mouse bear dog. The Chimera's eyes never left the boys as he took in his words. You're right. You were right about everything. There was a time when I wanted to prove that I could be more than what others labeled me as. I was given that chance and made the most of it. Shamefully, after becoming what I wanted, I allowed myself to become a hypocrite and a figure in maintaining the status quo. Since you came on the scene, there's been a shift in hero society. From a narrow-minded point of view, some would say for the worst, but maybe it's for the best. UA sets the standard for hero training, but you never needed that, and from the beginning you seemed to be inadvertently teaching us all how to be heroes. You've saved millions, young Midoriya. And it's not just your strength that resonates with people, it's your heart. It's your biggest thing and is that of a true hero. We just couldn't see that. So where do you go from here, Midoriya? Eraser asked with crossed arms. Izuku closed his eyes as he thought about all that was said. There was a pause in the air as all eyes were on the teenager. To eat with my beautiful girlfriend, he said, smiling casually. All three sighed in annoyance at these words. We're actually trying to make an effort here, young Midoriya. I told you before, I'm going to leave here and have the same life I had before I came here. There's nothing you can do for me, and I want nothing from you. As far as I'm concerned, you people in this institution are just a part of what I want to see change. I've accepted your ignorance, and a part of me will never completely forgive it, but if you try, maybe you can be different, and won't let down the next aspiring hero who wants to prove quirkless doesn't mean useless, or powerless. His tone of voice was telling. He released a small wave of power aura that gave the teachers chills and made his words really hit home. Sorry about that, you ripped open an old wound I healthily patched up. Can I leave now? Momo might worry about me if I take too long. Women hate to be kept waiting after all. Aizawa shook off the chills and perked up. Not yet, we have a training camp coming up for the first-year students. Would you mind helping us out with that? This request surprised both Nizu and All Might. Why would you ask me? Surely you've selected actual pros to help out with that. The quirks of the students you helped train for the sports festival have improved significantly more when compared to their peers. With the increase in villain activity, our goal is to level up the students as much as possible so they can get their provisional licenses. Can you help us or not? Did this man just say level up? Izuku took in the man's reasoning. He wasn't against helping future pros improve and get better. In fact, the prospect very much interested him. It made him happy when Ida told him the training he recommended had helped him so much. His years of quirk analysis seemed to be good for something if everyone he helped got that much stronger. But still, he looked the man in the eye. No thank you, he said bluntly before leaving the room. Nizu deadpanned at his response. He looked down at the application and noticed the date. By the way, happy early birthday, Midoriya. Izuku accepted the words with a thank you and left the room. The three teachers were left to ponder everything that just happened. All things considered, that was a nice try, Eraserhead, Nizu complimented. The hero sighed, then left the room, leaving All Might with Nizu. Both teachers sat in silence. The Chimera turned to the skinny man whose look of shame hadn't wavered since the meeting. It's not your fault, All Might. You gave him an honest opinion based on your own perspective. His words were warm and empathetic. It's not just that, it's the fact that he was right about me being like everyone else. I was a quirkless kid who wanted to be a hero once. I promised myself I'd make it happen. When I look back on the day I met him, I should have been able to empathize with that. Someone wanting to become a hero despite not having a power, and the belief in themselves to make it happen. Once upon a time that was me. My master saw it in me, but when it was my turn I didn't even try to see it in someone else. And look what he's become after all that rejection of his dreams. I had a hand in that. What does that say about me? He put a hand to his head and lowered his head. I could barely look at him just now. Nizu took a moment to find his words. It wasn't just you. I also had a hand in his pain. We can't change the past, but we can work together in moving forward, so we can't give up. Nizu left the table and stood before the sad man. As long as you're alive, there's still a chance to fix things with those you've hurt, no matter how unlikely it seems, he said warmly before leaving the room and leaving the symbol of peace with his thoughts. The next day, Izuku woke up bright and early the next morning. He woke to see Eri had snuck into his bed last night and had warmly snuggled up to him. Seeing she was still peacefully asleep, he got out of bed without disturbing her and covered her with the sheets to let her keep sleeping. Today was his birthday. For some reason, he always woke up early on this day. He never had a huge party, mostly from his lack of friends, but his birthdays were always fine growing up. That is until he met Taku back in middle school. Last year, after celebrating with his mom, he dragged him to a teen nightclub in Tokyo where he admittedly had a really fun time. He left his room and saw that his mom hadn't gotten up yet and could sense she was still sleeping. He went to the bathroom and brushed his teeth and flossed before sitting on the couch and looking at his phone. Kizuo and Michiko both sent him a happy birthday text as they did with all disciples. He figured he'd take a day off from heroing and enjoy his day. He went to his room and quickly threw on some workout clothes that consisted of a black muscle shirt, gray basketball shorts, and black and yellow basketball shoes. He grabbed his basketball and after putting some air in it, he headed out the door. Playing ball the other day when he was on patrol was fun. It put him in the mood to play more. That Aikawa guy was pretty good. Not too often you see someone at 170 centimeters dunk like that. He made his way to the park, all the while he was doing dribble moves and practicing his handle. People who saw him on the street were impressed by his skills. After a while, he made it to the park and stepped onto the court. He was the only one out right now, and most people didn't come out to play until about 1 or 2 o'clock. He had the court all to himself. One of the best things about basketball is that you don't necessarily need people to play with. Though it wasn't that often, he still liked coming out here. This was the place where his dad taught him the game. He always had a lot of natural talent and was really good, but he never prioritized it over his martial art training. He never played organized basketball. His game was essentially made outside, and he's built such a reputation on these courts that most people in the local basketball scene know him. He stepped up to the free throw line, took 2 dribbles and focused on the rim. He took a shot and made a perfect swish. The ball bounced back to him, and he continued to do this 4 more times. After his 5th make, he crossed the ball between his legs as he backed up to the 3-point line. He did a dribble move before going into a pull-up shot behind the arc, knocking it down. For the next hour, he took shot after shot, hardly missing one, while incorporating masterful handles with layups and dunks. His body constantly moves as he immediately goes into another move after getting the ball back after each make. His fundamentals were precise, fluid, and solid. His eyes never came down when dribbling, holding his follow-through on every shot and aiming for the rim, and his footwork and control of the ball were second nature. He dribbled to the right corner, he ripped the ball around his back, crossed it between his legs and spun into a mid-range corner fadeaway. He was behind the rim when he saw the shot go in. He sensed a presence just as he heard a familiar feminine voice say, "Nice shot, handsome." Turning around, he saw Rumi stepping onto the court and walking towards him. She was wearing a forest green sports bra, black workout shorts, and her hair was in a ponytail. He picked up his ball and met the woman. "Hey Rumi, out for a morning run?" he asked, noting she was covered in a light sweat. "Yeah, I'm about 30 kilometers in so far." She clapped her hands, gesturing to him to give her the ball, which he passed to her. She spun it on her right index finger. "I was just passing by when I saw you dropping bombs. You really got some game, don't you?" She smiled as she stopped spinning the ball. Izuku smiled bashfully. "A little bit. I was in a basketball mood, so I came down here to shoot some hoops." Rumi looked at the ball in her hands and lightly spun and tossed it up. "Man, I think the last time I played was half a year ago." She caught the ball and did a quick dribble move and breezed past Izuku and took a mid-range jumper off the backboard, making it. Izuku was impressed by her shooting mechanics. "Nice form." She got the ball back. "Thanks. Good to know the magic hasn't gone anywhere." She then took a corner 3 and knocked it down. "I was actually a 2-sport athlete in middle school and most of high school." Izuku got her rebound. "Yeah, you played volleyball and basketball. But your volleyball background is more well known." he said as he passed the ball back to her. Of course you know all about that, she said as she took another 3 and missed. Izuku caught the rebound, dribbled to the left wing, pivoted, fake spun right and spun left into a fadeaway resulting in a clean swish. He stepped behind the top of the key. Rumi got his board and passed the ball back to him. He pulls up with a smooth jumper and made another shot. Rumi gets the ball. You got any plans for today? She asked as he threw the ball back to him. Izuku catches the ball. Yeah, it's actually my birthday today, he said as he did a jab step, pulled up and drained another 3. Rumi was surprised to hear this. What? Why didn't you tell me? I would have got you something. She took the ball and dribbled back to the right wing. Izuku felt a little bad, not realizing she cared that much. Sorry about that. My birthday hasn't been the most epic of days. Only a select few have cared enough to acknowledge, let alone celebrate it with me. Rumi dribbled to the mid-range and did a floater, making it. Sweet 16, huh? So what's the plan? She asked as Izuku passed the ball back to her. I honestly don't know. Normally I'd keep it simple, but knowing my best friend the way I do, he's probably planning some sort of surprise party. That right? Sounds like you've got a really good friend. She crossed between her legs before making another mid-range floater. Izuku passed the ball back to her. The two continued to shoot around and talk, sometimes guarding each other but not seriously. After over half an hour, Rumi had a suggestion. Let's play a quick game. Okay, what are we playing? She gestured with the ball. First one to miss has to do what the winner says? She answered with a sly grin. Alright, he answered excitedly. Off the backboard, through the legs, one arm slam, she stated before doing that exact dunk. Izuku copied her move and got the ball next. Off the glass, jumped to catch the ball on the other side in mid-air and take the shot, nothing but net. Izuku executed this with Rumi making it with a lucky bounce. Rumi's turn again. Off the glass, tuck your knees in, rip the ball under you and finish with a two-handed dunk on the other side of the rim. With incredible athleticism and multitasking, she did her move with Izuku copying her. Izuku's turn again. Pull up to the top of the key, go into your jumper, pump once and shoot, nothing but net. His words came true when he did it with Rumi making the same shot. The two looked at each other. The sparks of competition had been lit, and they were ready to keep going. It took 10 more turns before there was finally a winner. Izuku beat Rumi by easily knocking down a full-court bomb as if it were a simp 3. Rumi was visibly annoyed at having lost but quickly got over it as she looked at Izuku. Alright, birthday boy, you win. So what do I have to do? Izuku grabbed his chin as if he were thinking when in all honesty he already knew what he wanted if he won. Turn around for me, please, he asked with a sly smile. Rumi complied and turned around. She had a smile on her face and a hint of lust in her eyes. She was sure he was staring at her, but after all, he's made it clear how he feels about her bunny buns. She didn't lose on purpose, and she didn't mind it at this moment. She wished Izuku had told her about his birthday beforehand. She really would have gotten him something. She was brought out of her thoughts when she felt Izuku messing with her hair. I don't think I've ever mentioned it before, but your hair really is soft and beautiful, Rumi. This sudden compliment, coupled with her feeling his soft pants python against her, but made her blush. Why? That's kind of a random thing to say. Are you putting my hair up right now? I noticed your hair tie was slipping when we were playing. That being said, you are my hero crush. Am I not allowed to give you a compliment? He asked, still standing close behind her. This revelation was like a tug on her heartstrings. No, it's not that, I just ... She then took a moment to regain her composure and remembered she was Mirko the hero. Thank you. I didn't get you a present for your special day, but your little big friend seems to be looking for one for you, she said sexily. Izuku could feel a slight erection arise at the mention of his little big friend. It looks that way, doesn't it? He then leaned into her left ear. All of her instincts were telling her the male behind her wanted to mate. Her body was becoming hotter by the second as the touch of Izuku's cheek against her ear sent a feeling of pleasure that reverberated through her body. His breath against her ear was titillating, and then he spoke. "Let's double back to this after a shower." She was now fully tuned on. Rising Sky Dojo Dormitory. There were several showers in the dojo's dorm, and right now the water was running and steam was emitting from one of the bathrooms. The sounds of the shower and the steam helped mask the sound and scent of the hot sex being had at the moment. Inside the steam-filled bathroom, a shower faucet streamed water onto the naked bodies of Izuku Midoriya and Rumi Usajiyama. They were connected at the lips with the tall young man standing behind the shorter woman, his erect member inside her, its length and thickness fully filling her entrance as well as her baby room. His multitasking was on full display as he lovingly kissed her, while his right hand played with her dripping wet pussy and his left massaged her voluptuous left breast. His hips were moving at a slow rhythmic pace, allowing himself to feel every bit of the woman. She felt him just the same. Due to her quirk, her sex drive was high. But something about this boy brought out a lust in her that she fully embraces. As she pulls his head down and deepens their kiss, she feels him. The loving nature he has, and the true care and respect he has for her. She liked this feeling, she really did. As their tongues made contact, it wasn't a wrestle for dominance, just a lustful embrace between two people. The impact of his mighty manhood sent wave after wave of pleasure across her body with each thrust. He truly knew how to work her body. He could make her come with one thrust, but he's choosing not to. Her ass jiggles with each hit, and her insides tingled. She can feel him all the way in her stomach. He plays with her pussy like an expert pianist, touching and pleasuring her in ways even she's never known. And her boob feels so good it's as if she's being touched by a god. She never felt like this when doing it to herself, and it blew her mind. They broke the kiss and Rumi's moans filled the shower. Dot. Izuku continued to pleasure the woman. "Your moans are always so cute, Rumi. It's your fault. And this perfect fucking dick," he yelled with pleasure. He smiled slyly. "It's perfect, huh?" He sped up his thrusts, played with her clit, and fondled her boob. Rumi's eyes shot wide at the sudden rapid bursts of pleasure. "Tell me how that dick feels," he said sexily as he reached down and sicked on her neck. "It's so good, baby. I feel it in my stomach, baby. Yeah. I'm about to come. I wanna come." Izuku added more power to his strokes. Rumi's body was on the brink of bursting with pleasure. "Oh Izuku, you make my pussy so. Oh shit, it's throbbing. That big dick's too good, baby. Tell me what you want. Tell me to give it to you." His words seemed to hypnotize her as she threw her ass back in rhythm with his strokes. She had hard eyes, and the way he held her gave no room to run from this pleasure. She didn't want to. She was going crazy the more he kept her on the edge. She knew what she wanted, and she wanted him to give it to her again and again. "I wanna come. Make me come, baby." With one powerful thrust, a mighty orgasm tore through Rumi. She lost all function as her legs spasmed and her body trembled. Izuku held her to keep her from falling. She breathed heavily as she rode the intense wave of pleasure. He turned the water off and freed himself from inside her. He was still rock hard and was far from done. He continued to hold Rumi and allowed her to get right. After a moment, he called to the woman. "Are you good, Rumi?" he asked with a sly grin. The look on the woman's face was one of pure lust and sexual satisfaction with a big smile. She always has the same face when she comes really hard, and it was adorable. The rabbit woman said nothing, only planting a kiss on the greenette's lips. "Let's head to my room, we're still not done, birthday boy." The two made a quick half attempt at drying themselves off. Rumi could still barely walk, so Izuku picked her up bridal style and told her to save her legs for spasming, much to her excitement. They made it to her room and Izuku laid her on the middle of the bed. Rumi spread her legs and played with her boobs as she sexily admired the ripped godly physique of her teenage bang buddy. As she touched her chest, in a way putting on a little show for him, her eyes fell on his still hard, perfect pussy pleaser, causing her to become wet at the sight. "Izuku, while enjoying her little show, noticed her sudden moisture. He had a charming look as he asked, "See something you like, Rumi?" The woman held her boobs while keeping her legs spread. "Don't you?" Izuku didn't answer and just climbed onto the bed. He got between her legs and started to kiss her right thigh, then her left before making his way up, kissing her stomach, her boobs all the way until he landed on her lips. Red eyes met emerald as they broke apart. An excited smile spread across both their faces. Izuku was about to go down and taste her, but before he could, Rumi stopped him. "Hold up, birthday boy." "Yeah? As fun as this is, I should probably tell you that as a rabbit I'm always in heat. So if we're not careful we may end up breeding." Her smile didn't fade as she revealed this information. Izuku was a little thrown off by this, as it was something he did suspect but she never mentioned. He remembered he didn't pull out and went bareback the first time they had sex. Could she be late? There was a reason she was just now bringing this up. Issue for later if it even becomes an issue. He gave her a charming look. "Duly noted," he said sexily before going down on her and licking on her flesh. Rumi let out a moan, gripped the sheets as she threw her head back. Izuku's cunnilingus was indescribable. From the moment his tongue starts lashing at her most sensitive spot, all she can do is lay back and allow herself to be worked by his clever tongue, thirsty for her nectar. The Midoriya house. Izuku walked into the house and was immediately greeted by a pouting Eri. "Izumi, where did you go?" "Yeah, sorry for not waking you up. But you look so cute when you sleep." "That's not it. I wanted to say happy birthday when you woke up," she said, slightly disappointed. "That's why she crawled into my bed this morning." "I'm sorry about that, Eri. I'd really love it if you told me now, though." He smiled while getting down to her level. "Happy birthday!" she exclaimed confidently. "That's exactly how you do it, thank you, Eri." He hugged the little girl who accepted his embrace. "Welcome home, son," his mom said from the living room. "Hey, Mom." He walked up to hug his mother. "Happy birthday," she said with a warm motherly smile. "I made it to the sweet 16, he said cheerfully. "Yes, you did. I'm gonna make a cake for you, but in terms of celebration, what is Takumi planning?" "Some kind of surprise party, I'm sure. You know how spontaneous he can be." "Speaking of, where have you been? I heard you leave at around 7 this morning and the app didn't show you were on patrol. It's after 1 o'clock, where were you?" "I left to go play basketball this morning. I ran into Mirko while I was down there, and we were just hanging out." His tone was completely natural, devoid of any hint of deception. He didn't enjoy lying to his mom just now. Though she wasn't the most perceptive person, she was still his mother, and she knew him. She gave him a quick mom look. "That sounds like fun. Since when did you become friends with a pro hero?" "I never mentioned it before?" "She figured out my identity when I was still a vigilante. But we had become friends before that, so I was able to trust her with my secret." "Alright. Well, I'm gonna get started on that cake," she said happily before going to the kitchen. Izuku turned around and went to the bathroom to take a shower. He honestly didn't mean to spend so much time with Rumi. Hell, even after 4 hours fucking her brains out, she still wanted more, even offering her anal virginity, which he barely refused. That libido is truly something. Still, he had plenty of energy for Momo later on. She was on her way and would be here soon, and he couldn't wait to see her. She implied she got him a gift he would enjoy. It's most likely something she made with her quirk. He wasn't materialistic and he would love something Momo made just for him. He actually planned on doing that for her birthday. And on that note, he gave her the whole story on his talk with Eraserhead. With love and understanding, she supported him and didn't encourage him to just outright forgive, but to take his time and handle it in his own way. His spy flies have done a good job at spying on the League of Villains. Jiren's been bringing several new recruits to join the League over the past few days, several of which have rap sheets. Himiko Toga, on the run for murder and a suspect in several others. Go to Amisuji aka the Cardinal Murderer Muscular, wanted for multiple murders with several including heroes. The escaped death row inmate Moonfish, murder and cannibalism, Kenji Hikishi, wanted for multiple cases of assault and battery. And the last he was able to uncover was Jin Bubaigawara aka Twice, wanted for theft and burglary along with assault and battery. There was a guy with a patchwork face and burn scars that disturbed him. All he got was that his name was Dabi but couldn't find anything connecting that name to anyone else. As he suspected AFO wasn't living in that building with Shigaraki and Kurojairi, but he learned there was a screen in which he spoke to him from an unknown location. Once he learned this, they positioned a fly on the screen in an unnoticeable position. Should AFO speak to Shigaraki again, they'll be able to track his location. His instincts still tell him he's somewhere in Kamino. His plan is in motion and all he has to do is wait. Once he knows where AFO is, he'll spring into action. His shower felt great. It took a good bit of body wash to get Rumi's scent off of him, and he was able to get her pussy off his breath. He exited the bathroom covered in a towel and went to his room. He dried off and put on underwear, camouflage cargo shorts and a black tank top. He got a call from Taku wishing him a happy birthday. He would slide through later and they'd celebrate. The doorbell rang and he left his room to answer it. He already knew who it was before he opened the door. "Hello, beautiful." He had a charming smile as he welcomed his girlfriend. Her hair was down, and she was wearing a gray, ruffle, off-shoulder blouse tucked into black jean shorts with black low-block heels. "Hello, my love. Happy birthday." She smiled as she entered the apartment. He took her hand and guided her inside. "I'm happy you came. How have you been today?" "I've been fine. It's your 16th year." She playfully pinched his cheek. "You're growing so fast, Dot." He broke from her and playfully got behind and hugged her while nuzzling his face into her neck. "Says MS. Early development. Dot. I take after my mother Sumi." She playfully responded. "Truly a blessing." "Momo!" Eri excitedly exclaimed as she bolted from her room to the older girl. "Eri!" She happily responded with a smile as she bent down a little and high-fived the little girl both up high and down low. Hey, you know it's Izani's birthday today." "I do. Do you know how old he is today?" He's 16. She answered confidently. Momo whispered in her ear. "Did you finish your gift for him?" She responded with a nod. Izuku smiled slyly. "I heard that. What gift is she talking about, Eri?" The little girl smiled as she shook her head. "It's a secret." She then went back to her room and closed the door. Both teens looked at the door. "That girl, she's had such a warm aura these past few weeks," Izuku commented. "And that is a very good thing," Momo added. After a little talking with Inko, Izuku and Momo went to the boys' room and locked the door. Momo couldn't wait before she wished him a happy birthday and made his gift. It was a statue of one, outstretching a hand with his signature smile, with a quote at the bottom that said, "Anyone with power can be called strong, but only those with strength and heart who use it for others can be called a hero." Izuku held the statue in his hand. He inspected everything about it, the look, the feel, the words engraved on it. It was an excellent philosophy, one he very much agreed with. Momo looked at him lovingly as he turned to her with a warm smile. "I love it, Momo. I can tell you put real effort into making this for me. I really like the quote here." Momo's heart was aflutter. She spent a lot of time looking for the best materials and gone through several attempts to make this, and she was happy Izuku liked it. She wanted to give him something from her heart, something he would genuinely like. He's never once asked her for money or any monetary kind of gift, and he knows her well enough that he can give her something that isn't about money. So the least she could do is do that for him on his birthday, and she was happy she could. "I'm happy you like it, Izuku." Izuku turned the TV on and they laid on the bed. They talked as they held each other with Izuku on top of Momo snuggled into her boobs. She held his head and they allowed themselves to just enjoy their moment of intimacy. As Izuku held her, she could feel him, She loved him and knew him well enough to know when something was on his mind. It was no big secret he loved her breasts. By his own words, being snuggled between them like this was one of his favorite places in the world. Still, she was curious about what was on his mind. "What's on your mind, Izuku?" He rose up and looked her in the eyes. "I'm just really happy. My life has changed so much in over a year. I can't put it into words how happy I am. I've become the hero I always dreamed of. I have people in my life that believe in me, that I love, trust, and respect, and they all give that back happily and willingly." As he looked at his love, a wave of repressed emotion nearly brought him to tears. "This is all I ever wanted." Momo gently put a hand to his left cheek. "Thank you, Izuku." He put his hand on hers. "For what?" "For coming into my life. Since I met you, you've given me something precious, an ideal to aspire to. I was 8 when I decided to become a hero, and I was always taught that those with power should use it to help others, however big or small it may be. But that tends to lead to self-righteousness. So when I saw someone who has every right to be angry at the world, instead choose to be good, see the good in others and help any and everyone with the strength of his heart outshining his physical strength, it inspires me to want to be a good person more than just a good hero." Her onyx eyes looked into his emerald ones, her heart aflutter as she formed her words. "For the longest time when you were a vigilante, people with influence would try to denounce or shun you. Pros wouldn't even acknowledge you as a hero." She took her free hand and brought it to his other cheek. "For all this time, thank you for being mine." Her words warmly and lovingly tugged on Izuku's heartstrings. This was another of the many reasons why he loved this girl. After all, she was the first person to accept him fully and openly. He was always at peace when he was with her, and holding her in his arms like this, she is and always will be the most beautiful creature he has ever seen. Everything about her, both inside and out, is the epitome of the word beautiful. "I love you so much." His words were warm. "I love you too." Her response was loving as he leaned in and she pulled him close. The two connected at the lips. The love and burning passion in this moment of intimacy was so intense both of them melted. For a whole minute the two made out with the passion of a married couple. The scene would cause any who saw it to blush. The flames of passion were burning bright in the young people. The sensual feelings they both felt were bubbling into something intense. An hour later, the sound and scent of sex had filled the room, coupled with the muffled moans of pleasure that verged on screams. Momo was in a low doggy-style position, legs spread wide and burying her face into the pillow. Tears of joy filled her eyes as she was riding a wave of sexual bliss. Her vagina was throbbing, her insides were pulsating, and she was so wet she was dripping onto the bed beneath her. Izuku was behind her, gripping her hips and pulling her into each stroke. Her sweet peach jiggled from the force of each thrust of his monster cock. His balls popped her clit, and she could fully feel every inch of him. His rhythm was slow, but he was giving her long, deep strokes that made her feel every last bit of it with enough power to bring her just short of orgasm. Momo moaned in the pillow as each thrust sent a wave of pleasure coursing through her body. Izuku sped up a little and the sudden pleasure was too much as Momo's legs gave, and she let out a scream that her pillow was just able to contain. Knowing her body, Izuku laid on top of her, reaching under her and grabbing her boobs. He kissed her on the left side of her neck and began pounding her into his mattress. Momo screamed into the pillow as her body tensed up and pulsated with pleasure, as multiple orgasms tore through her at once. Her pussy tightly clenched on his dick as she basked in pleasure. Her nerves were all out of whack, and her whole body was sensitive. She brought her head from the pillow and was trying to catch her breath when she finally registered Izuku kissing her neck. She lightly chuckled through her pleasure. "Are you trying to give me a hickey?" she asked, smiling with her hair a slight mess. He then stopped. "And what if I am? I'm pretty sure you gave me one. Consider that a separate gift, birthday boy," she joked. He got off and out of her, allowing her to sit up. "Speaking of gift, I want to do something I've been wanting to for a while." Momo's eyes widened as she suspected what this could mean. She put up a hand. Hold on a minute, Izuku. I love you, you know that, but I'm still not ready for anal sex, she said, blushing worriedly. Izuku just started laughing at her thoughts and how cute she was. Oh man, I really do love. But no, it's not that. Momo's heart fluttered when she fully registered the sissy look he'd given her. She fully welcomed his lips and they began to kiss with loving passion. Momo brought her hand behind his head and brought him down with her as she laid on her back. They continued to kiss in a missionary position. They broke the kiss and Izuku went down to take her right nipple into his mouth. The tingle of pleasure and her sensitivity were intense. She threw her head back. Izuku, I'm still sensitive. After circling her breast and flicking her nipple with his tongue, he left her chest and adored the state she was in. He had a charming smile, making eye contact with Momo as he slid his manhood back into her womanhood, filling her completely and shaping her to the shape of him. The two were once again connected at the lips, and their sex had now officially gone to a whole new level. The day was still relatively early, and they fully planned on spending the rest of it together, but the sex they're having right now is a shared time neither one of them will forget. Hours later, the two left the room after airing it out. Inko was finishing the food for the party, and she gave the teens a knowing look as they sat down on the living room couch. They had a video chat with Asashi, who wished Izuku a happy birthday. Taku had come over and surprisingly brought Saki, Kiyuki, Melissa and two of their classmates with them. One of them was Jinji Aoi. He was a boy with teal skin, a long pointy tail, two short teal-colored horns protruding from his forehead, yellow eyes, short white hair in a taper fade and small ponytail. The other was Chris Lloyd, an exchange student from Germany who was a big fan of Japanese culture. He was the same height as Izuku and Taku with shoulder-length blonde hair and sky-blue eyes and handsome features. Izuku was friendly with all his classmates, but these two were some he would call friends. After introductions, the party began. Chris and Aoi didn't know about his secret identity, but they came together and got him the newest hero catalog that contained quotes, bios and super moves of the latest heroes. Taku got him his very own jet board with a green and black color scheme, and Eri gave him a drawing she made of the two of them, which he immediately hung on his wall. Saki and Kiyuki got him some cool clothes as well as a haiku painted by Keizo that he too hung on his wall. Melissa got him an autographed copy of the fictional All Might comic that's no longer for sale. The party was a fun event with everyone having a good time. The cake was delicious, the food was excellent, and everyone was having good conversations all around. Before long it was 7 o'clock and a loud snap of the fingers by Taku got everyone's attention. "Now's the time, good people," he said with a sly smile. Izuku looked to his friend. "I knew this was coming. What are you planning, Taku?" "This was only part 1 of your birthday bash, bro. Time to head to Pika," he exclaimed, pumping his fist into the air. There was no argument. Izuku kissed Inko and Eri on the cheek and left the apartment with the others. They all piled into the white limo and headed to Tokyo. They would be staying at Taku's family penthouse and would head home the next day. They arrived at the teen nightclub Pika. To see, Taku had set up a whole birthday bash for Izuku and the party was absolutely jumping. Everyone was having a good time and the night was nothing but fun and energetic. Izuku jammed with Momo and Melissa, Kiyuki danced with Chris, and Saki was all over Taku while Aoi flirted with everything that moved. Since schools were on break, the club didn't close until 1 in the morning, and after leaving they all went to Taku's family penthouse. Kiyuki tried to keep the party going, but most were ready to go to sleep. There were 2 floors with 5 rooms in this suite and plenty of beds, including a couch bed, so everyone just picked one. This was a fun and interesting birthday. Izuku and Momo picked a room and got into bed, cuddling together and lovingly holding hands as they fell asleep in their spooning. 2 days later. The sky was cloudy over the city of Tokyo. There was an ominous tension in the air that no one going about their daily lives was able to sense. In Tokyo Bay, large fish-like monsters started to rise from the water and make their way onto the streets. People who saw them were fearful, and still under the water there was a figure whose lips morphed into an excited smile, ready and anxious for the havoc his underlings would cause. Muzudafu. One was teaming up with Mirko. Teaming up with him was what she had to do for losing to him in basketball the other day. He was running and jumping across the city instead of flying, which allowed Mirko to cling to him as he jetted across the city stopping crime. He really enjoyed working with Mirko. They had a really fun brains and brawn dynamic. They both used their senses to detect crime, and it became a race to who could stop it first, and after a while Mirko made this a competition between the two. Mirko bolted to a scene and delivered a brutal kick to a man who was mugging another man in an alley. After calling it in, the police came and took him away. "You're slipping, One." "That's 6-4 my way." One didn't look at her and put a hand to his shoulder. "Tell you feel that?" "Feel what?" "That ominous tension in the air coming from the northwest." He crossed his arms and looked in that direction. "Keep your senses on high alert. I've got a bad feeling about today." "Now I'm a little worried," she said as One suddenly got a phone call. One looked at the caller ID and was surprised to see it was Hawks. He excitedly answered the phone. "Hey, how's my favorite birdie boy doing?" "One, we have a crisis. Get to Tokyo now," he yelled into the phone, his tone startling the hero and putting him on edge. Whoa, Hawks, slow down. What's the problem?" He could hear the sound of the winged hero slashing flesh with his feathers, as well as the sounds of screams in the background. "Some sea monsters or some mutant fish experiments, I don't know, but it's not looking good dash." He heard a sound as if the phone had dropped. "Hawks? Hawks?" he exclaimed into the phone, getting the attention of all who heard his voice. He kept the phone to his ear. There was a moment of silence when he heard a sudden sensual-sounding cackle on the other end of the line. He heard a few breaths and then he spoke. "I don't know who you are, I don't know what you want, but I promise you, you won't get away with this," he said sternly. There was an amused, sensual-sounding chuckle on the other end. This is the first step of my invasion. Good luck," the sensual voice said before the connection cut out. Mirko looked at him, having heard what he said, and was in full battle mode. "Where are we going?" she asked, ready to hop over. One turned to his right, and across the street he could see the news broadcast on the TVs in an electric store. He quickly blitzed across the street and looked at the TVs to see the large monsters that resembled sea creatures were attacking Tokyo. Buildings were wrecked and people were running for their lives. The thing that horrified him the most was that the creatures were eating people. The camera captured a scene of guts and gore caused by whatever these things were. Mirko also looked at the news coverage with wide eyes and a look of disbelief, flashbacks of the blue villain flooding her mind. The two glanced at each other, and with no words they were gone in a flash. Tokyo. It was a scene of chaos and destruction. The blood and mutilated bodies of civilians, heroes and monsters alike littered the battlefield. The rumbling of the sky made the scene more ominous as various battles echoed across the city. It was absolute hell for the people running for their lives looking for some semblance of safety. Police had no way of maintaining the panicked public. Everyone was scared, no one felt safe. Even those who saw All Might declare he was here and join the fight couldn't overcome their fear, as many heroes had been ripped apart and eaten alive. In a section of the city, a group of monsters were blown away by a yellow, spiral wave of energy. The monsters shook off the hit and looked at a blue-haired girl flying with the same energy. "You guys need to stay down!" Her blue eyes were full of anger as she readied another blast. She then felt something wrap around her left leg. Looking down, she saw a hulking, muscular monster with the head of an octopus using one of its tentacles to grab her. Before she could react, she was violently snatched out of the air and swung around like a ragdoll into multiple buildings before she was tossed into a building, crashing through a glass window and a wall before hitting another wall, cracking it. "Ow!" was her only thought as she struggled to pick herself up. She looked out the hole she just made and saw the monsters blocking her way. She swallowed her fear and aimed. "Energy output level 40, need gyre wave!" she called out as her blast shook the building and nailed her targets. She then took this moment to escape and get some air. She needed to regroup with Ryukyu, They had lost each other in the chaos and everyone was scattered. A hulking monster with the head of a shark was rushing some civilians. The people screamed in terror as they ran for their lives. The monster's lips salivated as it encroached on the fearful crowd. A flash of white blitzed past the monster, making it stop and ready itself for battle. Suddenly out of the ground came Lemillion, shrouded in yellow lightning and uppercutting the creature into the air and making it land hard on its back. He told the people to keep running. He turned back to the shark monster that got back up, giving the young hero a snarl and a death look. The young hero kept his quirk activated as he got into a fighting stance. What the hell even are these things? They're strong and they've killed so many heroes. No matter how hard we hit, they won't stay down. What do we do? He thought as the monster rushed him. Hawks laid on the roof of a building. He was resting, trying to breathe and coughing up blood as he tried to manage his pain. He had multiple broken ribs on top of some internal damage. The pain was so intense, he could barely move. I almost died. The thought of the monster that hit him gave him chills. He could still see its twisted smile. I never saw that coming. He stood up and seeing what was happening below, he swallowed his pain and flew back down to join the fight. I hope one got my message. All Might was surrounded by the smashed bodies of monsters. His fists drenched in their blood and his signature smile was gone, replaced with a look of anger. You just don't know when to quit, do you? He turned to face the 4 monsters that were surrounding him. The beasts growled menacingly and attacked the hero. All Might's thoughts raced as he cocked back a fist. We still don't know how many of these things there are or who's commanding them. I got separated from young Togata. I have to smash this threat as soon as possible. He threw a punch that caused the area to explode with wind pressure. A figure turned in the direction of the rumble he just heard, surprised as he sensed several more of his soldiers had died. He turned back to the round human that was making himself a less than adequate punching bag. Fat Gum had a confident smile on his face. He had charged all his fat and the damage he sustained into his right fist. I'm done charging. You're gonna feel this one, he declared as he decked him in the gut, creating a burst of power and sending him flying into a destroyed building. The now skinny hero panted heavily, barely able to contain the pain of his injuries. Did that do it? He thought as he looked in the direction of his foe. A chill ran down his spine when he heard the shifting of rock, and the monster emerged from the ruins. A sadistic smile on his face as he patted his stomach. You were right, I did feel that. He continued to make his way to the now mentally panicking hero. Just a little dot, he said in a sensual tone. The hero racked his brain. Damn! That was all my fat, plus that was the worst beating I've ever taken, making that my strongest spear. I got nothing left, now what? He killed everyone else, and I sent Sun Eater to help the civilians. The monster was gone in a flash, and all his hair stood on end. He didn't have to turn around to know he was towering behind him. Are you finished? Its voice gave him chills as he slowly turned around to look at him. Because I'm not done punching you yet, it said, raising a fist. Ryuko had just finished killing a pair of monsters. She was becoming more and more frustrated as they just seemed to keep coming. She's seen many people and heroes fall in gruesome fashion since this attack began. She had been separated from all of her sidekicks and was worried about each of them. She looked around. Nijire! Everyone! Where are you? She thought desperately as she saw a hero be launched into the upper level of a building. It was only for a moment, but she was sure she knew who it was. Fat Gum, she said in horroring realization. She flew towards the building to check on the hero. As she got closer, she caught a glance of a ball of liquid being shot at her. She shifted her body to avoid it, but it still splashed against her right wing. The pain was excruciating as the ball was some kind of acid that immediately melted the majority of her wing away. She roared in pain as she fell out of the sky and hit the ground hard. The burning was indescribable, and she had to fight every instinct to turn off her quirk or hold her injured extremity. She laid on the ground, fighting the pain as a figure entered her line of sight. He was tall, muscular with green skin on his arms and legs and light skin on his chest and abdomen. He had sharp eyes, long fangs and fins protruding from both sides of his head, pink ovals for eyebrows, and wearing a red speedo, an ornate crown with a full trimmed cape. He also had hard nipples. Well, that's a sorry sight, isn't it? You shouldn't have tried to dodge my ball of acid. Now you're suffering when you would have instantly melted away without any pain, he said in a sensual tone with an amused smile. Ryukyu was too busy fighting the pain. She could barely form words as the creature approached her. Allow me to put you out of your misery, he said as he raised his foot intending on crushing her head to mush. The green man caught a flash of blue and shifted left, crossing arms. Smash! All Might roared out as he decked the villain. The monster skidded back, stopping and facing the hero. You're not the one. What are you talking about? The blonde asked, slightly confused. When I sensed the ancient king was killed, I was curious as to what human could possibly do him in. They would be the biggest hindrance to my invasion, so I wanted to drag them out and kill them. He then pointed at the hero. You've killed many of my troops, so I suspected it may be you, but I was wrong. Still, you're a delectable slab of meat, it waters my appetite. In a flash of speed, he decked All Might in the face with a right hook that drew blood. All Might's head turned from the hit. He's fast. He then turned his head back. But All Might returned a right hook of his own, messing up the monster's face. Oh my dot, he said, registering the damage to his face. All Might nails him with an uppercut to the chin, knocking him off the ground and stumbling a little when he lands. His smile didn't fade as he contorted his face, and it was back to normal as if he were never hit. Wow, that actually hurt. Just a little dot. All Might shined his signature smile. Is that so? Because your punch had no power behind it. That was intentional dot. His entire body flexed. Now I'll hit for real. In a flash of speed, the two rushed each other with their fists, creating a shockwave that shattered windows in the area. Nijire-chan! Lemillion exclaimed as he held his unconscious friend who was bleeding from the head. She had been sent flying by some monsters and he caught her before she hit the ground. She was covered in injuries on top of having overused her quirk. She was done fighting. He was able to get some space before more monsters were on them. He was worried about Sun Eater, and this situation showed no sign of getting under control. He had no idea how many heroes remained and he was trying to keep it together. He felt a chill run down his spine as they had been discovered and surrounded by monsters ready for blood. He grit his teeth and laid the girl down as he readied himself to fight. His eyes widened as the monsters all at once exploded in a burst of blood and gore. What the? He said aloud as he went out to find one in a crouch-forward position with his arms spread with his hands smoking. One! He called out. The green-clad hero turned to face the hero student. You alright, Lemillion? I'm alright. Man, I'm glad to see you, he exclaimed happily. How's the other one? He asked, knowing he wasn't alone over there. She's pretty banged up, and she overused her quirk. She can't fight anymore, he explained calmly. One pointed down the street. All right. Take her and head west. They've set up an aid station. I've dispatched many monsters and cleared a path towards it, helping any injured heroes and civilians get to it safely. Okay. He picks up Nijire and activates full cowling. What about you? I'll take care of these fish monsters. He pointed southwest. Steer clear of that direction. All Might's fighting what I can only assume is the leader in that direction given the sounds. Mirko also went in that direction, so it should be fine. He turned back around to see a group of monsters approaching them. Now go! He ordered. The blonde hero didn't argue and bolted for the aid station. One sized up the group of about 8 hulking monsters and prepared to destroy them with a single punch when he sensed a presence above him. He looked up just in time to see a flash of black land in front of him, cracking the ground. From the back he saw that the figure was his height with dirty blonde hair with metallic arms, wearing a black sleeveless hoodie, black jeans and sneakers. "Forgive my intrusion," they said in a strict-sounding tone as they cocked back both arms that emitted a yellow light that he could see through the hoodie as well. "Incinerate," he spoke before thrusting his arms forward and turning the monsters to ash with a blast of fire so powerful it made Endeavor jealous. The flames dissipated, and to the hero's shock that blast only destroyed what it was intended to, doing no damage to the surrounding buildings whatsoever. The figure turned around and one saw that had very familiar features, with black and yellow cybernetic eyes. "Hello, one. My name is Genos. Please allow me to fight alongside you," he asked, speaking fast and completely seriously. "Okay," he answered, stupidly casual. Thunder rumbled across the sky as it began to rain. The area was a crumbled mess as All Might roared as he threw a right punch that his opponent dodged, allowing him to nail him with a low body shot to his left abdomen. The hero grimaced in pain as he coughed up a little blood. "Still can't hit me, huh? I thought I already told you." "Protect your weak points," he yelled as he dug his fingers into the hero's side. Pain tore through All Might's body, causing him to scream in pain, much to the monster's delight. He let out a chuckle and prepared to punch the human into mush when a flash of white bolted his way. He couldn't react as Mirko nailed him with a double flying side kick that sent him crashing through a building. "I finished turning the monsters over here into sashimi, and I find you getting your ass kicked. Get it together, All Might," she demanded. He coughed up a little blood, the pain in his side still fresh. "I'm sorry." "Thank you, Mirko." "Don't thank me yet." She disappeared in a flash as the monster came back to meet her. Its fist came for her head and she shifted left, dodging and jumping away. In midair she spun and contorted her body, kicking and firing 2 air slashes at the monster. He takes the hits that cut into him that do no serious damage. Mirko lands. Those same air slashes cut the other monsters to pieces. So this one's in another league, she thought as she speed blitzed forward. "Figures for a boss." She spun and threw a kick that he blocks with his left arm, cracking the ground beneath him. "Oh, you have some strong legs. Tell me something I don't know." She spun into a triple kick with 2 landing heavy hits to his head, messing up his face. "Ah dot." He moaned almost as if enjoying the pain. He was so into himself he didn't register the blue blur rushing towards him. "I'm still here, villain," All Might announced as he hit him in the face with all his strength. The wind pressure roared as All Might plunged the monster's face into the ground. Mirko shielded her eyes from the wind. It finally died down, and All Might stood triumphant. "Are we done now?" All Might looked down at the beaten villain, the imprint of his fist embedded in his face with a contorted look. "Yeah, he's beaten." "All right. One should have taken care of the others by now, so let's get the cleanup started," she said as she began to walk away. All Might rubbed his face. He took quite a beating during their fight because he couldn't land a hit, but it was over now. He coughed as smoke emitted from him. "One is here?" "We headed over together but broke off to help separately." She looked over to see Ryuka injured on the ground. "Ryukyu!" She rushed over to help her friend. She was passed out, and Mirko was shocked at her injuries, the biggest of which was the complete exposure of the muscles on the right side of her upper back. "What the hell happened to you?" "She was hit with some kind of acid," a voice answered. Mirko turned around to see an emaciated skeleton of a man wearing an All Might costume. Her ears flopped, and she was completely flabbergasted. "What the actual hell?" It started to rain heavily. "Long story, not important at the moment. What is that we need to get Ryukyu and anyone else injured to some aid," Small Might explained as he stepped towards the heroines. Mirko's rabbit instincts began to scream as she saw something emerge behind Small Might. "Look out!" she hollered as she bolted to the skinny man, pushing him out of the way, and was blasted by a giant fist that sent her flying. She crashed through every wall of a building before coming through on the other side, but she never hit the ground as she was caught mid-air and held bridal style by a strong pair of hands. All the hair on All Might's body was standing on end as his body trembled looking up at the monster that stood over 20 meters tall. The air on the surface shriveled me up a bit. Now I'm feeling much like my old self. Let's see if your attacks can hurt me even a little, tiny human, he said threateningly. Small Might's eyes were wide with shock and horror. He had no words and no plan as he looked at the monster ready for blood. The rain set a gloomy setting over the city, and the memory of Sir Night Eye's vision for him came into his mind. He stood up and sighed in realization. So this is what you meant, Night Eye, he said in a low voice, accepting his fate. He gathered his courage as the rain picked up. Why are you doing this? He demanded. The monster crouched down, taking in the question and answering. Because I am the Deep Sea King, ruler of the ocean. All life comes from the ocean as if she were our mother. So as ruler of the ocean, I am the pinnacle of a pyramid that includes every living organism in the world, he answered seriously. So, does that satisfy your final words, human? He raised a fist. All Might had no words, his reasoning reminding him of the blue villain. Many thoughts and regrets went through his mind, but he was surprisingly calm. He spent so long fearful of what would happen if the symbol of peace was gone. But he not only found a worthy successor but someone who he was certain would change the world and became something he couldn't even fathom. A lot of promises were about to be broken but it couldn't be helped. Melissa, young Togata, forgive me. This is as far as I go, and young Midoriya, I'm sorry, he thought, closing his eyes and accepting his fate. There was a loud bang, but nothing in the realm of pain or death seemed to befall the shrunken hero. He opened his eyes, and as the rain poured down he saw the giant fist of the monster being stopped completely by one's left hand. Before he could comment on it, a flash of light passed over him and another hero was in its face. Incinerate were the only words spoken before the giant sea creature was blasted away by a massive wave of fire. With a hand still outstretched and his body emitting a yellow light, Genos' face was serious with a mix of surprise. Target was not eliminated, strange. Never assume an enemy is down until they're down, one said. That was 1,500 degrees. That same heat turned the others into ash. He'll be back in a minute, in the meantime you need to go, one said turning to Small Might. Genos looked at him with a serious yet quizzical look. All Might? He said, noting the costume. Why yeah, sure. I'll leave this to you boys, he said before going to help Ryukyu. One sensed malice and saw the monster speeding towards them. Take Ryukyu with you, he exclaimed as he raised his left forearm to block a punch from Deep Sea King. That actually burned a little. A little, huh? With all the heroes you and your minions have killed, forgive us for being too delicate. He grabbed the giant fist and spun before tossing him down the street, making him bounce off the ground before crashing into a building. He pulled himself out of the rubble and eyed the two who were taking calm steps towards him. His body seems to be affected by hydration, Genos stated. That's not too surprising, time to finish this, one said before they both disappeared in a flash. Both appeared on each side of the monster, who raised his arms to block one's punch to his right side and Genos' fire-enhanced punch to his left cheek, creating a shock wave that cracked the ground around them. So you two are a breed above these other human trash. One got Major Vaccine Man vibes upon hearing these words. Let's teach him a lesson, Genos. Yeah, he answered with a smile. The battle began with the two heroes as well as the monster moving at blinding speeds. One and Genos were both in perfect sync for two people who have never once fought together. They were both able to dodge and attack in equal measure, keeping the beast on his toes. One speed blitzed and sank a fist into the giant monster's stomach, stunning him in pain. He disappeared and allowed Genos to bombard him with multiple incineration blasts. The monster shook them off, and in a flash he was behind the blonde cyborg. Not good, he thought as he turned to see an incoming fist. It never came as a kick to the head from one sent him flying. Stay focused, Genos, one said as he landed. He took in his words and the two zigzagged each other and closed in on the monster again, To the shock of both of them, his mouth opened and a large eel-looking tongue with sharp teeth came at them like a bullet. Chronos was able to dodge with part of his shirt being torn. One went ahead and hit him with a backflip kick, making him bite off the eel and knocking him in the air. Chronos blasted off the ground with fire and met him in the air. Lightning eyes! He emitted a bright light from his eyes that completely blinded Deep Sea King. My eyes! He cried in pain at the sudden brightness, burning of his retinas and his loss of sight. Machine gun blows! The cyborg called out as he unleashed a barrage of blurring punches to the monster. One met him in the air and helped with the onslaught of punches. Chronos finished he beating with a fire-propelled kick that sent him back through the air. One! He gestured to the green-clad hero to take his hand. One got the message. Yeah! He took the cyborg's hand. Chronos began to spin vertically in the air before tossing him towards the fish monster so fast he made several sonic booms. One slammed into his opponent with a mighty impact. Blue blood spewed from the fish's mouth from the hit. Improvised special move, Sonic Overdrive. One called out before creating 20 speed clones and pummeling the massive monster from all angles with hundreds of brutal punches. The effect of the onslaught showed as Deep Sea King's body bulged from each hit. He spat out blood and couldn't defend himself from what seemed like an endless barrage. Each punch was far more powerful than his own. One stopped his attack and appeared in front of the monster's stomach in a flash, right fist cocked back. Roaring Sky Punch! He called out as he threw an uppercut into the monster's stomach. The punch obliterated him completely, and the wind pressure tore a hole in the clouds that allowed the sun to illuminate over the whole city. The gloomy atmosphere that had gripped the city seemed to fade instantly with the sudden shine and warmth of the summer sun. The storm was over, the threat had been quelled, and it was time to pick up the paces. One lands on the ground and moments later Chronos arrived. One? The green-clad hero turned to the running cyborg. Hey Chronos. The blonde cyborg stepped towards the independent hero. He looked up at the hole in the clouds, seemingly in awe at such power. Such power? I take it this means you've defeated the last monster? Yeah, thanks for the help. No need, the honor was mine. One smiled. Let's go help clean this up. Right. Chronos said seriously. The two walked towards the medical station. They talked while they were fighting the fish monsters, but now was a much better time. One was interested in the cyborg. It's not every day some just drops on him and asks to fight with him. He sensed no malice or ill intent, so didn't mind at all. Hey Chronos, I appreciate the aid, but you kinda threw me for a loop earlier. Do you mind telling me who you are? I'm a cyborg. I believe I was very clear on that earlier. He responded. Yeah, I got that, but the way you dropped on me and asked to fight with me was a bit random. I see, my forwardness would definitely come across as strange. Forgive me, I found you because I wanted to ask a favor of you. One was slightly surprised by this. Okay, what is it? He asked curiously as they both stopped walking and faced each other. Please allow me to be your disciple? He asked, completely serious. One raised an eyebrow behind his cowl. Bless him, he's totally serious about this. He thought as he registered the cyborg's question. I'm afraid I'm not really looking for a disciple right now, nor do I have the time. That being said, I would mind if we teamed up again. He answered respectfully. Chronos wasn't upset at all by his answer. I see. Well then I would very much like to work with you again, One. While we're on the subject, are your cybernetics a result of your quirk or something else? You've got some serious firepower. Thank you for the praise, but no, my body was basically destroyed and I chose to become a cyborg. I'll give you the details another time. One took in his words. I respect that. So you're saying since you're a cyborg you fall outside the hero legalities. Not too different from me, actually. Chronos looked at the green-clad hero, a small smile on his face as they walked to finish the job. He was now on friendly terms with One, and will very likely be working with him more often. The power he showed was incredible, and he wanted to see more of it. The event of that day in Tokyo would come to be known as the Storm. The results of what happened had serious effects on hero society. Many people and heroes lost lives. Following the event, multiple heroes effectively retired, starting a conversation of what truly makes a hero. Strength, heart, valor, what is most important, and should every hero have it? Many questions were asked about what exactly it was that attacked Tokyo. Many of the corpses of the creatures were collected and none of them possessed any trace of human DNA. The current theory was that these were some form of sea creatures who had hidden in the unexplored world of the ocean until they made their presence known. The leader Deep Sea King, as confirmed by All Might, was invading the surface to take it over. He also credited one with defeating the threat and expressed his remorse for the loss of so many heroes. The latest crisis was confronted and conquered. Hero society is once again questioned. People are starting to be on edge, almost as if it doesn't end here. Those in the shadows are moving. Those who fight for peace must be prepared to not only be willing, but able to act. What makes a hero? How does one become a hero? Are they born or are they made? A good question. Chapter 25. A hero knows, is always on time, and saves everyone. It was 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and things seemed peaceful as he made his way back to Muzurifu. He was making his way back from a situation in Saitama on the outskirts of the city. He thought about paying his masters a visit when a dispatch of a fire in the north part of the city came into his cowl, so he flew over. He arrived at the scene to see a 2-floor house on fire. He saw the fire department and the police en route as he flew over, and they'd be here in about 3 minutes. The fire made it difficult, but he could just sense 3 people in the house. His scanners allowed him to detect 1 adult woman, a baby, and a young boy. He lands on the ground and without question rushes into the blaze to help the family. Once he entered the home, he could hear a crying infant in the midst of the blaze, coupled with the cries of a distraught mother. "Shinra! Shinra! Where are you?" The house was a full blaze. This could easily spread to the neighboring homes if this wasn't put out quickly, while also a child being injured in something like this was the last thing he wanted on his conscience. He tucked his arm as if to quick draw a katana, formed his hand into chop and focused. Aye sword, Hamura split slash! He performed several slashes with his right hand, cutting the fire itself and blitzing across the house until the flames were completely extinguished. The house went dark with the faint smoke of the flames being the only things remaining. He could hear the sound of the fire department getting close. As he was putting out the fire, he picked up a little boy that was unconscious and held him in his arms. His clothes were a little burnt, but that seemed to be the only thing resembling an injury. He found a woman holding a white-haired baby upstairs. She was average height with a slim figure, brown hair and reddish-brown eyes. Her clothes were burned with holes and she had a look that was a mix of concern and relief. "Shinra!" she exclaimed when her eyes locked on the little boy in the hero's arms. One gave her a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, he's just unconscious." He extended a hand. "Come on, let's get outside." The mother nodded and walked down the stairs with the hero putting a comforting arm around her waist. The mother looked around at the scorched scene that was her living room, many thoughts going through her head as they exited the home and were greeted by Backdraft and Muzurifu Fire Department. They were all surprised to not only see one had rescued the family, but also completely put the fire out. The mother gave a report to the police and firefighters. Apparently it was Baby Show's quirk manifesting and that caused all this. The whole family had a resistance to intense heat because of their quirks, so thankfully no one was injured. As this was happening, Shinra had woken up and one was keeping his distracted as the kid was a big fan of heroes. It reminded him a lot of himself actually. "That's a pretty cool quirk, Shinra." One complimented the flames jetting from the boy's feet. "Thanks, one. I want to be a hero when I grow up," he said happily while giving the hero a sharp, toothy smile. "Is that right? Do you have any hero names yet?" he asked with a smile. The boy's face lit up. "I sure do." He backed up and did a couple punches before igniting his feet and doing a spin kick, balancing on one leg and holding up a flaming foot. "Call me Firefoot Man," he declared confidently. "Cool name. And you've already got a decent idea of a fighting style, I'm impressed. He stood up and stood next to the boy. Hey Shinra, try this. He did a series of kicks with the boy failing to imitate them. He then corrected his posture, and it allowed him to do it better. Much better. If you work hard and keep a good head on your shoulders, you'll definitely be a blazing hero one of these days. He then saw the kid had a look of discontent. Something wrong? I promised to protect Mom and Sho, but the house was on fire and I was knocked out, he said, disappointed in himself. The impact of Sho's quirk manifesting knocked him towards the stair. He had slipped and fell down. That's how he got knocked out. One placed a hand on the young boy's head. Don't beat yourself up over it, okay Shinra. Everything turned out alright, your mom and brother are safe. And don't look at this like a failure, we all need a little help sometimes. And helping those who need it even if they're not asking for it, or when you don't have to, is what being a hero is all about. He smiled and his words were warm and reassuring. The young boy took in his words and his face lit up. Okay. Shinra! Come on, we're leaving. His mom called out to him. Okay, bye one. He turned back to the hero who extended a hand for a high five which he happily gave before running to the police car with his mom and brother. One was about to take off when he was suddenly stopped by Backdraft. Hold it, One! He demanded. Hello Backdraft, how can I help you? He asked nicely, already knowing where this was going. You never explained how you put the fire out. You're not allowed to use your quirks, so how did you do it? Or are you already violating your independent sanction? He asked, hopefully being right. The fire and police department were behind the pro waiting for an answer. One just sighed. 5th time this week. He mumbled. If you must know, I merely cut the fire. What the hell does that even mean? One of the officers asked. One sighed in annoyance. The particulars are complicated to non-martial artists, but basically my master has a sword technique where she can cut fire. I decided I liked it, so I borrowed it. I don't use it often, but it's useful in cases such as extinguishing the flames that were engulfing a house. He explained simply and casually. Everyone who heard him were perplexed by his words. He explained that so calmly, but it still made no sense. One of the cops listening narrowed his eyes. I know martial arts, and what you said still doesn't make any damn sense. One scratched his right cheek. Knowing martial arts and being a martial artist are two different things, he said with blunt honesty. As strange as it sounds, in a world built on quirks, training rather than relying on a quirk is the key to becoming strong. Mastering yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually can lead to incredible things. The act of not doubting that is strength. He paused and allowed his words to sink into everyone around him. Can I go now? I probably have somewhere else I should be right now, he asked, looking at the fireman hero. Get out of here, he groaned. In a flash, one was gone, leaving a strong gust of wind in his wake. The police got in their cars and took off while the firemen got in the truck. Backdraft took one final look at the house and saw that it wasn't nearly as bad as it should have been. The fire reported was massive for a 2-floor home, and before they arrived, one had already extinguished the fire and saved the family. It was frustrating. Every hero knew their lane, to work operations pertaining to their strengths. However, one didn't have such a thing. No matter the crisis or situation, he was able to handle it flawlessly. He's a hero that can literally do it all. Even All Might isn't that good. Backdraft hopped on the truck, annoyed at being outdone in his field of expertise. Really don't like that guy, he mumbled as the truck began to drive away. One is a blur as he runs through the streets of Muzurifu. The sun was beginning to set and was feeling a little hungry, so he dipped into the White Fox Cafe for a bite to eat. He phased through the door and stopped on a dime inside, surprising almost everyone at his sudden appearance. The owner, Nanami Kaibara, had a welcoming smile, but the look on her face was one of slight annoyance. I have a door for a reason, One. What can I say? I'm very eager to once again eat here, Kaibara, he replied with a smile. Several of the employees waved at him, while many patrons had their mouths gap at seeing the city's infamous independent hero. Nanami just shook her head while still smiling. Just take a seat, smart guy. The usual? She asked. Not today. Fine. Gyuri, help him out. She ordered an employee. No problem, she said, following him to his booth near the window and handing him a menu. He ordered chicken wings and pork fried rice with a drink of water. Gyuri was a cute girl around his age with a pale complexion. She has purple eyes and dark purple hair. Her hair has 2 long tufts with one raised in the center depending on her mood. She got a job working at the cafe for the summer, and her energetic and cheerful personality always made her good company. How has your summer been, Gyuri? He asked kindly. It's going pretty good, I can't complain. How's your day been? She asked with a smile. You know how it is, the life of a hero keeps you on the move. I hear the storm was pretty crazy, keep up the good work. Be back with you in a bit, she said cheerfully as she turned and walked away. Dude, that's actually one, he heard a guy say from a table on the other side of the cafe. He shifted his eyes in the direction of the voice and saw 2 boys around his age sitting together. One had dark, shaggy black hair, dark eyes and a lazy-looking expression, while the other had spiky brown hair with oval-shaped eyes and large pupils. They seemed to have already eaten their food. Oh yeah, Nanami said he likes eating here every now and then. This is my first time seeing him here though. I didn't mention that? The black-haired boy asked his friend. No dude, you didn't, the brown-haired boy retorted. He then sighed and glanced at the independent hero. Let's go talk to him, he suggested before getting up and walking to his booth. One sensed the teens approaching. However, he was busy looking at his phone and saw Hayatoko had broken out of the asylum early this morning along with another criminally insane villain he's dealt with in the past. Hey one. Looking up, he saw the brown-haired boy looking at him, a little anxious. What's up? He asked. You mind if me and my friend sit with you for a minute? Sure, have a seat, he responded welcomingly while gesturing to the other side of the booth. The boy gestured to his friend to join him, which he did. He bowed his head. I'm Koziite Sparama. The brown-haired boy introduced himself. And I'm Sen Kaibara, the black-haired boy said before sitting down. Kaibara, huh? Are you related to the owner? Yeah, she's my cousin. Well, what do you know, Dot? He smiled. You two seem slightly familiar to me. Have we met before? Sabarama had an uneasy smile. No, not really. But you may have seen us briefly in the UA Sport Festival. Oh, you both go to UA? Yeah, we're both in Class 1B, Kaibara stated. I see. Well, I hope you both can become proper heroes, he said genuinely. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. How do you do it, man? You were a vigilante outperforming pros without any official training, now you're independent doing the same thing. What's your secret? Sabarama asked. Well, being a hero was my only goal. Quirk aside, I dedicated myself to training, learning various martial arts and strengthening my body, mind and spirit as much as possible. Along with that, I picked up a lot of skills to be the best I could be, hacking, sleight of hand, speed and lip reading along with numerous detective skills. Believe it or not, the ones that don't pertain to fighting are the ones that serve me the most. I also always take any and every opportunity to learn and observe multiple ways in which I can be better. Then there's experience. Nothing in the world can beat that. You can study and learn something all day, but if you don't put all of it into practice, there's no point. That sounds like a lot of work, the brunette stated. Nothing worth having is ever easily earned, and it's the culmination of all I've learned that's allowed me to be the hero I am today. Even if you're not allowed to use your quirk? Kaibara asked. Especially since I can't use a quirk. A hero who is limited by their quirk's capabilities is nothing more than a one-trick pony. No matter how versatile they may be with it, a hero can't afford to be that, he stated bluntly. The two teens took in his words. One was surprisingly more intense than they originally thought. His words kinda stung a bit because they both weren't much without their quirks. Kaibara had seen the media coverage of the storm, and the conversation of what a hero is being asked more than ever. He personally wants to be a hero because he always thought it was cool how people used their quirks to help people. But seeing so many die and unable to do a thing about it made him unsure about a lot of things. "Hey One, what's a hero?" One registered his question. The look in his eyes was telling. He looked at the teen. "A hero is someone who does what they can the best that they can to help others, for no other reason than it's the right thing to do." He took in the hero's response. "Alright. The past few months have been crazy and everything that's happened since the storm just makes it more so." One sighed. "Well, you're not wrong. This latest incident has really shaken up people. Personally, I feel you can take this one of two ways: motivation to step up, get stronger and keep this from happening again, or you can quit. I don't respect that decision, but I understand. Only you can decide for yourself to become a hero. The money, the celebrity, and the fame mean absolutely nothing. Can you honestly say you're the type of person to put it all on the line for the sake of others? Do you have the strength of heart and character to face powerful villains? Are you physically able to, and what truly matters to you? These are the questions one must be able to ask themselves to find out if they truly are a hero. Then there are actions. Even if you do have answers, it's very possible to be a hero in name only. Does what you do on the outside reflect who you are on the inside? Because you can be a strong and effective hero, but still be a piece of shit. This question is actually a hot topic right now since the storm. Over 50 heroes retired in the Tokyo area on top of those who lost their lives. They weren't able to protect themselves or the public, and were ill-prepared to deal with the attack. Destruction to the city aside, the issue was the heroes couldn't hack it, but instead of trying to improve, many just quit. He could understand that some look at it as just a job and they could find a new one, but he also couldn't help but think about what Stain said. He continued to speak with Tsuburama and Kaibara about bettering themselves as heroes, in which after explaining their quirks he gave them both a specific training regimen for strengthening them. After a while Nanami brought his food out, and he enjoyed another meal at his favorite cafe. The next day, Izuku and Momo held hands as they walked together along the walls of the UA gate. This was the last time he would see her for a week, and he was feeling bummed about it. He met up with her at the train station and walked with her to the school. She was in her school uniform while he was wearing a red t-shirt, black shorts, and his red shoes. He didn't regret declining the B.S offer to join the training camp, but he would still miss his girl. She looked at him, and though it wasn't obvious, she could tell he was feeling a little uneasy. It was most likely about his talk with the teachers the other day. She was shocked when he told her they figured out he was one. Even so, she understood how Izuku must have felt in that moment, hence why she's supporting him on how he chose to handle it. "Are you still upset about the other day?" Izuku sighed. "Not upset necessarily, just still disappointed. You know I support you however you choose to handle this, but do you think talking with them again would help any?" "I don't know. They cornered me in a room with my identity. I don't really care about that, it's just, they talk to me as if I were some freakish outlier. Maybe not to my extent, but anyone can be strong if they train hard enough, especially those who aren't born with power." That whole talk was basically them saying, "We messed up, how can we fix it? Because we wouldn't have done or said that if we knew how strong you were." That angers me the most, because the only reason any of this is being said is because I've done so much, which wouldn't have been necessary if they had let me try. To anyone who didn't know him, his words would have sounded bitter, but to Momo he was just hurt. Hurt over and over because of a dream he had and people's perceptions of him. She hurt for him because she could empathize with the fact it didn't have to be that way. It all came down to the choices of others. "I think they genuinely want to amend those wrongs, Izuku. It's just that given your circumstances it may be difficult to figure out how to go about it," she said empathetically. "All I want is to be understood. I don't need or want their useless apologies, because it's their words and actions that have shown me how they truly feel about people like me, especially in the world of heroes. Momo took in his words. They were almost to the gate when Izuku suddenly wrapped his arms around Momo's waist as they walked. Momo chuckled a little at her boyfriend's sudden clinginess. Izuku, are you going to miss me that much? What kind of question is that? Of course I am, he said as he hugged her as they walked. You know you could just blow it off the camp and I could help you go plus ultra. Who better than me, right? As much as I'm sure I'd like that, you know iron sharpens iron, so it is best to train with my classmates, she answered. A week? What am I going to do without you for a whole week? He complained dramatically, nuzzling into the left side of her neck knowing it was one of her sweet spots. His touch tickled her. What'd you normally do when we're apart? I promise I'll call and text you every day. I'll even video chat, okay? She giggled as he teased her. It's not gonna be enough. Yamamo! Midori! A familiar feminine voice called out from behind them. Turning around, the two saw Ishido behind them. The two stopped and waited for the pink girl to catch up. Good morning, Ishido. Izuku greeted her warmly. How are you today? Momo asked with a smile. Her bubbly smile shined brightly. I'm great, and I'm super excited for camp. She put a hand behind her head. But honestly, I was afraid I'd oversleep. I freaked myself out so much I woke up early. Her eyes were closed as she answered. Meh, you have plenty of time, Izuku said. True. But I too am excited for training camp. This will be fun, Momo said, smiling. Right. Ishido said as they began to walk together. A sly look appeared on the girl's face as she watched how the greenette was clinging to the spiky ponytailed girl. You two getting your last snuggles in? He is, Momo said, smiling giddily as Izuku teased her. He's been clingy since we met up at the train station. I'm gonna miss you though. Izuku said playfully. He then let her go and held her hand. That being said, do you know where the camp is going to be? Mr. Aizawa just told us to show up. We don't know where the camp will be held or who will be aiding our teachers, Momo answered. Whoever they are, I hope they're at least cool pros, Ishido added. She turned to the greenette. While we're at camp, what are you gonna have going on, Midori? The usual, I guess. I'm thinking of taking a beach day soon. It would have been really nice if this one could have come along. He charmingly looked at Momo, making her blush slightly. Come on, love, you know I'm not happy about that. I promise I'll make it up to you. She gave him a knowing look. We'll do it when I come back, and besides, there's no rest for heroes, right? Izuku wasn't really mad or upset. He understood why she had to go and fully supported her. It didn't mean he would miss her any less. True enough. They made it to the front gate, which was open. Ishido went inside while Izuku and Momo stood outside to talk, still having 20 minutes before the arrival time. As the two talked amongst themselves, several other students from both Class A and B passed them. It was about 10 minutes remaining when a red-haired girl with a side ponytail and teal eyes arrived. She had a welcoming smile as she approached the two. Hey Yayorozu. Good morning, Kendo, how have you been? Momo asked with a smile. I've been good, can't complain too much. You? I am well, she answered with a nod. You look like you've been through something this morning. She had a slight blush. A handful of people recognized me from that commercial on the train, and it got a little intense. Well, people do love heroes. Seems the price of fame can get annoying sometimes, Izuku said, entering the conversation. Kendo closed her eyes with a small smile. Tell that to Iwabumi, she seems to enjoy it. I can definitely see that. He smiled warmly. I'm Izuku Midoriya, he said before bowing his head. Itsuka Kendo, she replied before bowing as well. You two seem close? She asked, noting the vibe she was getting from the two. Momo hugged Izuku. Very perceptive, Kendo. Izuku's my boyfriend, she said with a casual smile. The redhead blushed slightly. I figured your energy together makes it pretty obvious. You're a cute couple, she said before leaving and entering the gate. She seemed nice. You were right about her. Izuku smiled as he lightly waved at Kendo's back. I told you. She then took a breath, realizing the time. Well, it's time for me to go, love. Her words were unhappy as she looked him in the eyes. Izuku eased the mood with a smile. Have I said how much I'm going to miss you? He asked rhetorically. Momo returned a sexy smile of her own. You could stand to mention it again. I'm gonna miss you so much the week is going to be significantly less enjoyable because I'm not gonna have you. That what you meant? He smiled charmingly. I promise I'll keep in touch when I can. I'm gonna hold you to that. I love you. I love you too, she said as they both leaned into a kiss. The two made out passionately, showing off a serious case of PDA. This would be the last chance they would be able to touch and hold each other for a while, so they made the most of it. They kissed lovingly while Izuku held her waist while Momo wrapped her arms around his neck. He was so engrossed in the moment he almost didn't sense the presence itching closer behind Momo. The bus is leaving with or without you, just so you know, Yayorozu, the voice of Eraserhead bluntly stated. Izuku didn't care he was there, but their kiss abruptly ended when Momo registered his voice. She quickly turned around, red with embarrassment. Oh, good morning, Mr. Aizawa, she said awkwardly. The man kept his neutral, dry expression, not answering the girl and pointing his right thumb behind him. Momo got the message and entered the gate. She made it past her teacher before turning back to her boyfriend and raising a hand. Bye, Izuku. She gave one final beautiful smile before she turned and walked away. Izuku raised a hand in parting. Bye, love, he responded. He was then left with the older man, who just looked at him with contained annoyance. The silence between them was palpable. The other day ended terribly, and the events following the storm seemed to only make the situation more unstable, as he's recognized as the hero who stopped it. Have a nice camp, Eraserhead, Izuku said nicely before beginning to walk away. Wait, Midoriya? Against his better instincts, he turned back around. Yes, sir? That offer still stands, he said casually. He originally declined because of all the emotions in the moment, but now that he had time to think about it, he wasn't fully against it. He really didn't want to go the rest of summer without Momo, and him attending the camp would at least be something, and it wasn't like he had to be there the whole time. It was only a week, he could spare a few days. That being said, he still needed to keep an eye on the League of Villains. They were planning something, and Hayatako, along with his other escapee, were on the loose planning who knows what. He was this close to finding AFO and blowing up so many villain operations. He needed to focus, at least for now. I'll think about it, he answered before walking away. One more thing? Eraser suddenly added. Is there any information you willing give us on the LOV? Izuku was surprised he'd ask a question like that. From that one question, a lot of things instantly made sense. Is that why the students don't know where the camp will be? In case someone is leaking info to the villains? The older man narrowed his eyes at the teenager, fighting the urge to use his quirk as an intimidation tactic. Do you have anything to give or not? He asked, annoyed. Izuku met his eyes, unflinching. They've been recruiting new members, 3 of which I've confirmed are legit murderers, and they're plotting something. Don't exactly know what yet, but I'm all over it. His words were confident without the slightest bit of condescension. Do you know where they're hiding out? He asked, genuinely curious. Yes, and I've surmised the quirks of all of them. If you have that info, why not take them down now? Because I haven't found the location of their leader yet. Once I have that, I can act. Eraserhead took in his words. He wanted to ask more questions, but he didn't want to push it, knowing he was lucky just to get this. He sighed and entered the gate. Izuku went along his way and decided to go on patrol for a while. He got into costume, alerted he was on patrol in the app, and looked for action. After a couple of hours, he had handled a few crimes, and people on the street were eager to speak with and take pictures with him. He loved his fans, but he never forgot why he wears the suit, to be a hero. Not for glory or prestige, but simply to help, to teach people to be better to each other and make the world a better place however he can. It was 1 o'clock and one was getting a little hungry. He walked up to a food stand. The owner was a man in his mid-20s with a stocky build and curly light brown hair. "Hey Dobashi," the hero said as he smiled at the man. The man, who had a bored expression, instantly brightened up. "Hey one! The usual?" "Yes, sir," he answered happily. The man then got to work making his usual order of grilled octopus balls. "How's your day been?" "It's going pretty good. I've stopped a few incidents today, but relatively speaking it's been pretty peaceful." "You?" "Meh. Business is business. Thanks again for the free advertising. People flocked to the stand when they saw you eating my takoyaki. What can I say, yours is really good. I'm happy for your business though." "I appreciate it." He handed him a tray with 8 takoyaki balls and a bottle of water. 500 yen. One gave him the money, took the food and water. "Take care, Dobashi," he said before going on his way. He ate one and an explosion of flavor burst in his mouth. This is why he liked Dobashi's takoyaki so much. It was mouth-wateringly delicious. As he swallowed the food, he sensed a disturbance and headed over. He found a group of villains trying to knock off a bank truck. People avoided the scene and waited for a hero to arrive and stop this madness. The group had about 5 members, the drivers were gone and they were so busy cleaning out the truck they didn't notice the hero drop behind them without a sound, takoyaki in hand. "Hey guys, did your business loan not get approved?" he joked with a smile while holding the tray of food. They all looked outside the truck door. "Oh, shit man, it's one!" a blonde-haired villain exclaimed fearfully. "You guys get out of here! We'll handle him!" one of them said as he and another lunged from the truck. One had brown hair buzz-cut while the other had long spiky black hair and a ponytail. The buzz-cut villain cocked back his right fist, and it became a large fist, seemingly made of sand. The spiky ponytail villain sprouted black-red katana-esque blades from his body. One kicks the sand fist away and flips over the blade villain. He then nails him with 3 brutal kicks before spin-kicking him in the head, then bringing his foot back to deck him in the back of the head, making him hit the ground unconscious. Before the Sandman could react, he was blasted with a side kick that sent him crashing into the brick wall behind him, knocking him out. In a flash of speed, his hand was pressed against the truck before the villains inside could take off. Their eyes rolled back in their heads as they fell unconscious from the wave of power aura he released. He sensed several presences and he was suddenly swarmed by a dozen more villains. So there were more hiding in plain sight just in case a hero showed up, he thought as they encroached on him. "Come on guy, surely not all of your business loans got denied," he joked before releasing another wave of power aura and knocking them all out. He took another bite of takoyaki, called the police and rounded them all up. The drivers of the truck approached him as they had been hiding after they were attacked. "Thank you so much, one of the drivers said with gratitude. "No need for thanks, sir. How did they get the drop on you anyway?" he asked, looking at the original thieves. "It was the sand guy. That quirk of his was intense, he flooded the truck with sand. I was just barely able to stop and bail out before I wrecked the truck," he explained. "Well, you did an adequate job. Forgive me, I was getting food, which is why I didn't notice this sooner," he said with a slight bow. He put his hands up. No need to apologize, one. You saved the day before they could steal a single yen, I'm thankful. But I do wish this didn't happen on my first day on the job." "Well, this wasn't in any way your fault, so it should be alright." He turned in time to see Endeavor round the corner. "Hello, Endeavor. Cops will be here to take care of these guys in a bit, and no money was stolen." The flame hero shot him a natural glare that would have intimidated anyone else. Vernon came running behind him. "Endeavor, we've got a call on some Sunday drivers on Busa." "I'll race ya," one said with a smile before disappearing in a flash. The hero went that way, blasting off with flash fire. When he got there, he saw that one had stopped the drivers, angering him. He felt a shift and took off to handle what was wrong, One was already ahead of him and arrived just as one had pinned down a thief with a briefcase full of diamonds. "Gotta go fast, Endeavor," he said with a smile. The flame hero gave an annoyed grunt of annoyance as he was beaten to the perp. One called the police and they came to get the thief. One then took off just as Endeavor felt a disturbance. He arrived to see one had taken down several carjackers. The police also came to get them. His anger was bubbling to the surface as one took off once again. He then noticed the disturbance and arrived to see one standing over a woman in an alley with a man laid unconscious on the ground. "Whoops, sorry about that. I mean to say stop, but I punched you instead," he said, looking away from the attempted rapist. Endeavor was angry at once again being beaten to the case. It didn't help that the potential rape victim with her white hair and age reminded him of his own daughter. The police came and got the creep and one was happy to see him go. He turned to Endeavor just as the flaming sidekickers showed up. "Are you okay, Endeavor? You seem in your feelings?" he asked, seeing right past the hero's naturally angry expression. "It's nothing," he said as he walked away before turning back to the independent hero. What's your quirk?" he asked questionably. "What does that matter? It means very little, especially considering I can't use it." "You expect me to believe that everything you've done is nothing more than physical ability, that you work quirkless? You can believe what you want, but it's the truth. I'm of the mind that training rather than the quirk you're born with is the key to being strong. A hero defined by their quirk is just a one-trick pony. I became independent happily because I don't need one to be a hero." "The hell's that supposed to mean?" he shot back. "It means, who the hell designs children just to make up for their quirk's faults?" His words seemed to surprise the three sidekicks. Endeavor's natural angry look shifted to one of anger. "You don't know what you're talking about, boy." "I know enough. I had a nice talk with your so-called masterpiece. Endeavor, from the outside looking in, you are a hero. You've saved so many lives, the most resolved cases is the only thing you have over All Might. So when I met your son, and we had a talk, let's just say my perception of you has changed forever." "Who the hell do you think you are?" he said with venom. "Someone who believes there's good in you, but can't understand why someone who calls themselves a hero could do something so deplorable, for no other reason than his own ego. For a meaningless ambition." Endeavor's face contorted with anger. "Meaningless, huh?" he growled. "Know this one, that boy of mine will beat All Might one day. That's the reason I made him." One narrowed his eyes behind his cowl. "You really don't realize that being recognized as the strongest hero means almost nothing. What good is having power if the strength of your heart doesn't match it? Truthfully, that's the real reason you'll never surpass All Might. Your heart's ideals, what you value and why you do what you do aren't the same." Endeavor took in his words, surprised at his wording and angry at what he said. He had sacrificed so much to get to this point. There was no turning back as he trusted everything to Shoto to fulfill his ambition. He had accepted his place, then this brat comes out of nowhere with power exceeding himself, and even All Might, and not caring one bit about that. It infuriated him. He missed out on the storm, and hearing of how one single-handedly put an end to the crisis, something even All Might couldn't do, was irritating. He even rejected the pro system in general. His mere status as an independent hero made all the top heroes look bad because it's changed nothing from when he was a vigilante. He was still better than them. "What the hell are you even saying?" "I'm saying that if the same things that mattered to All Might mattered to you, you would have been the #1 hero years ago." His tone was stern as the flame hero took in his words. One got an alert on his hero phone and pulled up the app. "Got a situation in Atomy. Later," he said before disappearing in a flash, leaving the flame hero to ponder what he had just said. The day came and went with one resolving multiple cases from across the country. He ended up back in Muzudafu once the sun went down. He stood on the roof of a building when his phone rang. Seeing it was Momo calling, he happily answered. "Hello, beautiful." "Hello, my love, what are you up to?" "Things seem pretty peaceful right now, so I'm chilling at the moment. How'd the first day of your training camp go?" She then went on to explain how they met up with the wild pussycats and spent most of the day battling rock monsters to get to the campsite. She told of how she chose to stay and help her classmates even though she could have made it in no time, about the facility, the dinner they ate, and bathing with her friends. Mineta seriously tried to scale the wall of the hot springs, Izuku asked in a joking tone. Just him being the worst, as usual. Want me to handle him? No need. He's a despicable pervert, but he's harmless. Okay then. Seriously, to get the pussycats to help out, I wouldn't have expected that. I was surprised as well to see them. They actually recognized me from Hero-kan. In hindsight, it was probably for the best that you didn't come, she joked with a smile. Because Pixie Bob would almost certainly try to jump my bones, he joked with a smile. You're the one who let her get a good feel of you at Hero-kan. I'm sorry, he said casually. Momo chuckled lightly. You're lucky I can't stay mad at you. So how much longer are you going to stay out? I'll be out for a while longer, then I'll call it a night. There's some detective work I have to get on. Alright, good night, Izuku. Sweet dreams, love. He hung up the phone and looked over the ledge and saw Death Arms and Kamui Woods patrolling together. A call about a murder comes into the police scanner in his cowl. He jumped into the air and skywalked to the location. As he descended, he could see a teal-blue car with a man slumped over in the driver's seat. He could also see the bullet wound to his right temple. As he was about to land, he sensed malice and heard the alert of a phone coming from the house across the street. There was suddenly a massive explosion as the car burst into flames. The blast was so strong it shattered the windows of nearby houses. A figure runs outside. He is wearing all black clothes, which include a full face mask, leather jacket over body armor, gloves, baggy jeans, and combat boots. He was also armed with multiple concealed guns. Damn it. I was sure I wired that other car properly. Oh well, someone else's problem, he said as he ran to observe the burning car. As he watched the blaze, he was satisfied with himself. The flames were so intense he figured one was killed instantly, and the flames were doing their job. I got you, didn't I? Where's your godly powers now? Where did all your special crap get you? Huh, he said with smug arrogance. Dead. Now I get to be special. I get to be loved and famous. It's strange you would say that. These sudden words put the black-clothed man on edge as he turned to the voice and saw one standing on a street light, not a scratch on him. I don't ever recall doing this for fame or admiration. And do I really come across as a special person? If that's the impression you get from me, you must have had a very wonderful life. The man roared as he pulled out two guns and let off shots at the hero. One stood firm and merely caught every bullet fired at with his right hand. One caught a bullet and quickly tossed it back into the barrel of his right gun, jamming it and making it blow up in his hand and breaking two of his fingers. Ah! The man yelled in pain as he dropped the gun, ran to his left, and crouched in front of another car. One looked down at the man who still held one gun tightly in his left hand. You killed a man and blew the car up specifically to get at me. Why? His words were stern, demanding an answer. The man's heart was racing from his failed explosion and the fresh pain of his broken right index and middle fingers. One caught his bullets and jammed his gun like it was nothing. He was better than he thought, but this wasn't over. He stood up and came around to the driver's side of the car, gun in hand. Because I'm gonna kill you. I'm better than you. I deserve to be you. And now I'm gonna show you why I deserve to be loved more than you. He was serious. Another alert went off and the car burst into flames with a powerful explosion. The man was knocked away. He flipped and rolled across the ground from the impact, burned, broken, bloody, and covered in glass. The broken murderer groaned in pain, unable to even stand up. One flips off the street light, walks past the burning cars and approaches him. Tricky things, explosives. Who are you supposed to be? He asked, genuinely curious as far as stupid villains go, most villains who could come up with a plan like this weren't this stupid. Black one. he managed to say in a weak, pained tone. One raised an eyebrow behind his cowl, genuinely perplexed. Black one? Yep, officially confused, he said before snatching the man's mask off his face. He was covered in blood and burns, but he was certain he knew who it was, and it was shocking. Officer Tuda? The police and several heroes arrived, and every cop was dumbfounded to see that one of their own was responsible for this. Apparently Tuda had been researching and speaking to anyone with some connection to one, mostly people he's saved or helped. It all began 4 months ago, when one barged into a slasher murder scene. He was annoyed no one tried to stop him from interfering with an investigation. Not only that, he was able to figure out how the murder happened as well as where the murderer was, all while they're still trying to put pieces together. It didn't help that the sergeant who was there just let him do what he wanted and let one go get the killer, all while reminding him he was just a beat cop with a crappy attitude, and would be that until he died. He saw how one was loved and admired, and he wanted that. So he came up with a plan to kill one and replace him. One stood with Tsukachi as Tuda was loaded up into an ambulance. The hero sighed. I'm sorry for this, detective, he said empathetically. It's not your fault, one. He put a hand to his head. Pathetic. Though I can kinda understand. A lot of police deal with hero envy. Most just see us as the clean-up crew for heroes, even though they totally depend on us in regards to crime alerts and investigations. I never thought of you like that, one said honestly. Well, you're in the minority. We're not public figures even though most pros depend on us, so it's common to see police work viewed as a step down from hero. In the fight for peace, everyone has a role to play. The police are just as important as heroes. My police scanner has helped me out a lot. Tsukachi crossed his arms as he took in his words and closed his eyes. Figures you'd have a scanner. It's no wonder you've never needed help. That's far from true. I've always had help. Everyone needs it, even me. I've just picked up many skills that most heroes deem unnecessary or don't care to learn. Why? Because they can just leave that to the police, he said, smiling at the detective. The man sighed with a smile. You're different, one, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. He turned to the cop-turned-murderer. Anyway, we still can't get in touch with his wife. You don't think? One implied. It's starting to look that way. One took in his words. A trusted officer had gone off the deep end. Thankfully, the people he held at gunpoint were okay. He tied up and gagged them in their house while he waited for him to show up. We have to do better. And see what truly matters. Tsukachi looked at him, taking in his words. Take care, detective, he said before leaping into the sky and walking away. Izuku got out of costume and made it back home. His mom was in bed and Eri had waited for him to come home so he could tuck her in. He put her to bed, stroked her hair and laid with her until she fell asleep. Seeing her peacefully drift off while snuggling with her black cat plushie is always adorable. Izuku never minded laying with her. A big reason why she would sneak into his bed is because she usually had a nightmare, and next to him is where she felt safest. For Eri, just knowing he was there made it easy to fall asleep and not have nightmares. He left the room once she was asleep and sat at his computer to do some spying. He went to the camera feed of his spy flies and the 3 separate videos showed angles of the bar. Shigaraki was making a house of cards while Kurojairi was cleaning glasses. Jiren was standing near the door, seemingly leaving. Well, Shigaraki, everything is all set. I'll have your goods ready by tomorrow. They may not look like much, but quality is guaranteed, he said with an excited smile. We appreciate it, Kurojairi said. Yeah, thanks, Jiren, Shigaraki said. Don't mention it. You know why the Union is so interested in your little group, it's because everyone has such high hopes for you, he said looking at Shigaraki. If the League of Villains comes into the light, all the other scum of society will follow suit. When that happens, brokers like me will be rolling in new customers. Crime pays, John said, smiling happily. Shigaraki smiled. Well, when that happens you'll be very busy, won't you? So much in fact you won't be able to keep up. Jiren chuckled lightly. I'm looking forward to that. He held his cigarette and did a small wave before exiting the bar. For the next hour, Izuku watched the dry young man and the black mist have back and forth conversations with each other. The two were surprisingly simple, either one was an outright smart or deep thinker. Shigaraki truly was a man-child with Kurojirai seeming more like a babysitter than anything else. The moment he was waiting for had arrived when the screen on the side of the bar came on. "Hello, Tamura," said the voice of All for One. Both men in the bar were surprised to hear their leader contact them so suddenly. "Hello, Master," Kurojirai answered respectfully. "What is it, Sensei?" "Seems there's been a change of plans, the location of the camp has been moved." Shigaraki's eyes narrowed at the screen. "Is that right?" As they spoke, Izuku was hitting keys, using the spy fly out of sight on the screen to trace the signal back to wherever AFO is transmitting from. "I missed you the last time you worm. Just keep talking for 20 more seconds," he thought as he turned back to the screen. "So they're at a mountain lodge with a bunch of cats," Shigaraki said in understanding. "Yes, my source is very reliable," AFO said in his usual charismatic tone. "And what or who exactly is this reliable source? I think I have a right to know," he said demandingly. "I have a friend amongst the heroes, Tamura. Seems you were having trouble gathering information on your own. I've told you many times how important it is to have friends." Izuku gripped his chin thinking about what he'd just heard. "Friends, huh?" he thought as the spy fly was able to track the signal to a location 5 kilometers away. "There you are, you swine," he thought as he smiled happily as he continued to spy. "How are your plans coming along?" AFO asked. "Now that I have this intel, everything's all set. I ordered some stuff from Jiren and he said it will be here by tomorrow," he answered. "I see. Well, I wish you the best of luck with your plan then. We'll talk afterwards," AFO said before the TV went black. The black mist turned to the young man. "Everything is almost ready, Tamura Shigaraki. It was wise to keep a team on standby." The decaying man stacked his house of cards. "Of course it was, that's why I did it. Still, Sensei was able to get the info we needed so easily. I was trying to figure out where those idiots were going and he figured it out in an instant. Guess he really showed me up," he said as his house of cards collapsed. "The heroes must think we're on to them. So it's only natural they would change their original plans. Well, good for them, they got that right, don't they? And I wanted to do all of this myself, oh well. The board is set with my pawns and their prey. Time for the game to begin and shake Hero Society to its core," he said, smiling behind his hand mask. Shigaraki and Kurojirai got up and left the bar, turning off the lights implying they were going to sleep. Izuku turned off the camera feed and collected his thoughts. So many answers gave rise to more questions. He leaned back in his chair looking up at the ceiling when got a video call on his computer. It was Taku. He accepted the call and his graynet friend popped up on screen. "Hey bro, I just finished spying on the LOV. We've got to a lot to talk about." "I know, it seems we were on the same page tonight. I was watching too, and I noticed you tracing the signals, so all I had to do was observe. So starting with our most obvious situation, how do you want to handle the camp attack?" Izuku gripped his chin, thinking to himself. None of the students knew where the training camp was going to be. AFO is just learning this, so given what we just heard, it stands to reason one of those 46 people tipped him off. "Yeah, there's definitely a traitor at UA," Taku agreed. "We can address that later. For now, what we need to do most of all is find AFO and prevent the camp attack. They'll attack either tomorrow or the day after, definitely at night once Jiren has brought their support items. That gives us a full day to scope out AFO's hiding spot. Also, I'm gonna pay that training camp a visit. The whole group will meet up in the bar before they leave, so let's try to plant a fly on at least 3 of them, specifically Muscular, Moonfish, and that Dabi guy. Those 3 worry me the most." Taku nodded, taking in his words. Noted. Also, Shigaraki said they were going to shake Hero Society. Things with heroes have been heavy recently, and I get that just them doing this is enough to shake faith in heroes even more, but there seems to be another objective here. Just attacking the camp seems so basic. Izuku got where he was going with this. You think they're targeting someone in particular? It's just a hunch. But let's keep an eye on them. Alright. A lot's happened today, I'm calling it a night, Taku. Taku raised a finger. Before you go, Aizu, what the hell was up with that cop-turned-killer? Izuku shook his head and sighed. That was an unfortunate guy who admired and envied the wrong aspects of heroism, he said, saddened. You do a good job, Aizu. Plenty of people have seen what you represent the most. Hell, in the community section on the app, several people have shared their stories of how seeing you help the suicide jump saved their lives. Don't let one person's misinterpretation make you forget that, he said compassionately. Izuku smiled, happy to have a friend like Taku in his corner. He could always read him like a book. He felt bad about what happened with Tudu and would have definitely weighed heavily on him. But he had to move past it and keep striving to be the hero he's always wanted to be. Thanks, Taku. You bet. He smiled coolly. Good night, Aizu, he said before ending the call. Izuku put his computer to sleep, changed into his night clothes, hopped into bed and drifted off for some much-needed rest. So many things went down today, and now he knew how to proceed with the LOV and AFO situation. Things were about to get crazy in a few days, but he wasn't worried. He thought about calling Genos to tag along, as the cyborg gave him his number after the battle with the sea monsters, issue for tomorrow. For now, he allowed himself to drift off for a good night's sleep. In an undisclosed location, AFO sits in a dark room only illuminated by the screen. He rested a fist to his cheek as he thought deeply to himself. He had been in constant thought on a recurring problem, an unexpected wrench in his plans, and that was one. He picks up a phone and calls a single contact. The phone rings for a moment before a feminine voice answers. What is it? Apologies for calling so late, I have a job for you, he replied charismatically. What's the job? I need you or a member of your team to support Tamura's group in an operation they're launching. How much? 3 million at the start, another 5 when the job is finished. There was a pause on the other side of the phone. Fine. But I'm busy, so I'll have to send someone else. What's the plan? A simple attack with a recruitment/kidnapping, AFO answered casually. And I'm guessing this is related to you, eh? Correct. Okay, send me the place and my guy will meet the group there. Very well. AFO paused for a moment. Actually, send Kazumaki. The voice on the other end of the phone was already thinking that, and wasn't surprised that he suggested him. I was already considering that, but why him? I believe his particular skill set would be useful to Tamura's group. Narrowing their eyes, the person thought about it. Alright, I'll let him know. Lastly, you're really not going to tell me anything about one. I know you know who he is. Even if I did tell you, you pulling your usual strings would certainly result in a brutal death for you. As immortal as you like to believe you are, a fight with someone like him will not end well for you. That's all I have to say, so good night. The phone then hangs up. AFO sat in silence, taking in the words and fully registering their conversation. He went back to thinking of a plan to deal with the independent hero. Since their fight, he's thought of little else. Someone so powerful was quirkless. When he crushed his arm, it was only for a moment, but he could feel his true power. Power that made one for all seem like nothing, power he couldn't take, and that frustrated him. Still, he could be very innovative when he wanted to be, and he's taken precautions for their inevitable conflict. Killing All Might would be a simple task at this point, but he needed a way to handle one. The next day, Izuku had put off heroing for the day and dedicated all his energy to the LOV and AFO. He was going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, all in the same night. He proposed a plan, and when it all went smoothly, a potential threat and a serious threat would be extinguished. It was early in the morning, precisely 6:50 a.m. One had propped down on a wide dirt field a few yards away from the same lodge the Pussycats owned. The UA first years were staying here. Momo told him about the place, and Eraserhead did extend that offer, so him showing up shouldn't surprise him at least. He was all alone on the field and he sensed several presences in the distance. He walked in that direction to see the Eraserhead standing as his students approached him. His steps didn't make a sound as he walked. The Erasure hero didn't notice someone behind him. It was Momo, fully awake at the head of the group, and was surprised to see him. "One?" she said, getting the attention of her classmates, who were also surprised to see the hero approaching from behind their teacher. The teacher was surprised to hear the name. He followed her line of sight and looked behind him, and he too was surprised and startled to see the independent hero. "One," he said, surprised to see him. "So you changed your mind?" One gave a warm smile. "Something like that. So I'm assuming these are your students? Good to see you again, Yayorosa," he said with a wave. "Likewise." She smiled back with a look that said, "We'll talk later." Jiro's eyes widened at their words. "Wait, Yamamo, you know One?" "Yes, I met him officially during my internship. He treated Mirko and I to some delicious udon," she said, smiling fondly at the memory. Most of her classmates were surprised by this sudden information. "I can see you are all confused by my presence here, but the short version is that your teacher basically begged me to help train you all and improve your quirks. Luckily, I have a bit of knowledge in that field, so I figured why not." Eraserhead sighed at his words. "Be that as it may, given recent circumstances and the lack of faculty to spare on you first years, it's both physically and cost-effective to have someone like One to help you lot. So treat him the same as you would any of the other teachers." All of the students took in his words, with many of them agreeing in their own ways. "Yes, Mr. Aizawa," was the collective response of the group. "Bakugo, catch." He tossed him the same ball from the ball throw. The blonde caught the ball. "Give that a throw. At the start of school your record was 705.2 meters. Let's see how much you've improved." Everyone began to get excited to see how much they've improved. Bakugo smiled confidently as he stepped away from the group to do his throw. "Blow him away, Bakugo." Kirishima cheered from the sidelines. He did a couple stretches as he readied himself. "I've got this," he said confidently before shifting his body into a throwing stance. "Go to hell!" He threw the ball with a powerful explosion, sending it far into the distance. The wind of the explosion blew back his classmate's hair. One merely sighed next to Eraserhead at the "go to hell" statement, as it was completely uncalled for. Bakugo closed his eyes with a smug look, ready to hear the results when the alert came on Eraser's device. "That was 709.6 meters," he stated bluntly while raising the device, revealing the score. All of the students were surprised at how little he'd improved. Most were expecting him to throw that almost a mile. "That's it? Kinda disappointing," Siro said from the crowd while the blonde's smug face shifted to one of anger. "You've had a single semester at UA, and you all have definitely improved. But most of those improvements have been mental prowess and technical skill, with a slight increase in endurance thrown in along the way. For most of you, your quirks haven't improved, not on a fundamental level. The only ones who have improved in this regard are Yayorozu, Ashido, Jiro, Yururika, Kirishima, Ojiro, Ida, and Mineta." These words caused all eyes to fall on the students in question. Ida looked around at all the others who were called out, and it hit him. "I see. Our quirks have improved because we're the ones who have been doing the quirk training recommended by Midoriya," he said, smiling at the others. Kirishima pumped his fist with a toothy smile. "You're right. I've been doing his training since that first day." Ojiro agreed. Mineta made a cool pose. "So it begins, time to keep climbing up the hierarchy. Midori's training may hurt like crazy, but it works." The pink girl smiled happily as she made a ball of acid in her right hand. She fired the ball at a large rock that mostly melted away when the ball hit it. Momo smiled at her classmates. "Izuku's quirk knowledge is impressive. I told you all would benefit from it." I'm not sure how strong mine would be if he hadn't helped me train. And that's coming from a recommendation student, Jiro said slyly. Bakugo took in the words of everyone around him, angered that not just Ponytail, but these other extras were ahead of him, because of fucking Deku. Not to mention he was stuck in remedial classes, also one was here. After everything that happened with the storm, his strength was something no one could question at this point. He needed to improve, setbacks be damned to hell. I've been observing these particular students, and I expect you all to push harder than you ever have, in spite of you being ahead of the curve. A rare but evil-looking smile spread across their teacher's lips. This'll feel like you're dying. Hope you all survive. Zero visibly flinched and looked at Kirishima. He's joking, right? Nope. The spiky redhead said bluntly with a smile and walked towards the green-clad hero. Yo, one! Please use me as your personal punching bag? That's an odd request on a first meeting. But I remember seeing you in the sports festival. You can make your body stone like, right? Yeah, that's me. My quirk gets stronger the harder I'm hit. I'm Eijiro Kirishima. Nice to meet you. Likewise, Kirishima. And of course I'll help you, but know that I hit pretty hard. Oh, I'm counting on it. The redhead smiled. Wait, one, since you're helping him, can you help me out too? Ojiro asked. Sure, you're a fellow martial artist, huh? Your name? He asked respectfully. The tailed teen was surprised that he could tell that just from looking at him. He smiled excitedly at the hero. That's right. I'm Mashiro Ojiro. Actually, my hero name is the martial arts hero, Tailman. Well, with a name like that I have to help you, don't I? He smiled back at the tailed teen. The group met up with the Wild Pussycats who did their full version introduction, and after a while of one dodging the advances of Pixie Bob, the training camp began. Class 1A had broken up to train their specific quirks. One had put himself into position, now he just had to wait. He would try to uncover the traitor here, and he would have to leave the scoping of AFO's hideout to Taku. He could handle it. He looked out to the students training their quirks. He cracked his knuckles. It was time to whip these people into shape. And that's a wrap, my extraordinary time-traveling companions. Part 9 of our What If Deku Became Saitama? Saga has left us breathless and craving for more. I hope you enjoyed this thrilling chapter as much as I did, filled with heart-pounding action, surprising twists, and moments that touched our very souls. If you haven't already, make sure to smash that subscribe button and join our amazing community of fellow explorers. Your support means the world to us. Now it's time to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts, theories, and what you're most excited about for the next part. Let's dive into some mind-bending discussions together. And remember, keep dreaming, keep exploring, and keep being the heroes of your own stories. Until our next adventure, this is Chronos, signing off.